Xiao exclaimed. Yes, marrying a princess. What a brilliant plan. I must say, Yang Huai's strategy is indeed brilliant, or rather, extremely cunning. In ancient times, the norm was monogamy, and marrying 2 wives was rare. Let alone Zhang Xiaochuan planning to marry a dozen. The so-called polygamy refers to having 1 wife and multiple concubines, as mentioned earlier. Children born from concubines are considered illegitimate and have no inheritance rights, which creates a significant disparity in status. This is something Zhang Xiaochuan particularly cares about. As a modern thinker who values equality, he naturally prefers to have as many wives as possible. However, once he distinguishes between wives and concubines, it implies that one day his legitimate wife could have the concubines or their children killed, and that is unacceptable for someone who believes in equality. Originally wanting to promote society toward freedom and equality, how could he accept that his own family still adheres to feudal customs? Yang Huai's cunning strategy lies in marrying a princess. For once he marries a princess, it becomes impossible for him to marry equal wives thereafter. As for taking a concubine, theoretically, marrying a princess could allow for it, but there is a prerequisite. The princess must agree. Princesses are often pampered and spoiled. So how could they possibly allow their husbands to have other women? Therefore, throughout history, there have been very few cases of princes taking concubines. And even seeking other women was done with great caution. If Zhang Xiaochuan really married a princess, the consequences would be unimaginable. Li Mao asked. With his current standing in ice heart, he could refuse even if it were a bestowed marriage. Li Xiao also realized this, and looked at Yang Hui with anticipation, hoping he would have a good solution. Yang Hui did not disappoint them, mysteriously saying, come closer. Here, Deya, take a piece. I guarantee you'll fall in love with this flavor. No way. Give it to your Xiaoya. From now on, when you eat durian, don't come near me. Go find your Xiaoya who shares the same taste. Xiaoya shyly interjected, sister, you're talking nonsense again, but it really is delicious, sweet and sticky, even better than cake. Deya pinched her nose, saying, not delicious at all, it stinks. How can it compare to my cake? Zhang Xiaochuan shouted, Huang Pongzi. Come here quickly. Huang Pongzi hurried over and asked, Master, what's the matter? Zhang Xiaochuan grinned mischievously, I've thought of a new way to eat durian. I'm going to make a durian cake, and you come help me. Deya stomped her feet in anger. Husband, you're so bad. I want to allow you to make durian cake. Seeing that Deya had been successfully teased, Zhang Xiaochuan went to the kitchen with a triumphant expression. Chapter 271. There's a mole in the group. Seeing Zhang Xiaochuan about to leave, Deya quickly called out, Stinky husband, I need to talk to you. Upon hearing there was something to discuss, Zhang Xiaochuan stopped. Is it news from Shuzhou? Deya changed her playful demeanor and said seriously, exactly. This news is a bit hard to accept, so you need to be mentally prepared. Zhang Xiaochuan noticed Deya's seriousness and realized it was significant. Go ahead. I can handle it. After a moment of thought, Deya said, last night, the headquarters treasury and armory were simultaneously robbed. What? How could there be such a huge security breach at the manor? And why is this only being mentioned now? Because it's quite suspicious. Although there was a theft, the losses were not substantial, which is why Uncle Mo only reported it after the investigation. Hearing that the losses were not significant, Zhang Xiaochuan felt relieved, but then reconsidered. If the losses were not substantial, why do you look so serious? Is there more to it? Exactly. The headquarters security is said to be even tighter than that of the Imperial Palace, especially since the treasury and armory are equipped with electric grids and alarm systems. The thieves not only avoided the night patrols, but also completely bypassed the electric grids and alarm systems, quietly stealing the items. If it weren't for the morning check of the armory and treasury, we wouldn't have discovered it. Therefore, we suspect it was an inside job. Zhang Xiaochuan angrily interjected. This insider must be a core member of the headquarters. Indeed, Uncle Mo suspects this as well, but since the discovery was late, we haven't been able to identify the suspect yet. However, our ammunition and the boxes for the vouchers are equipped with tracking devices. This is a recent invention known only to a few individuals. The location of the stolen items has already been pinpointed. As Dia paused here, it was clear that this location was difficult to mention. Zhang Xiaochuan did not rush her, but Dia comforted him, saying, the loss this time is really minor, and we've only lost some cash goods. The core information has not been leaked at all, so the betrayer must have their reasons. You should try to see this in a broader light. In truth, Zhang Xiaochuan's heart was already in turmoil. The core personnel at the headquarters were all individuals he trusted the most after coming to this realm, people to whom he could entrust his life. It was hard for him to accept that any of them could be involved. He mentally went through the list of core personnel, unable to imagine who it could be. At that moment, he felt like a criminal awaiting judgment. Even though he was afraid, he could not resist the final outcome, leaving him with nothing but anguish and panic. Zhang Xiaochuan closed his eyes and sighed, saying, just tell me, I can handle it. Seeing Zhang Xiaochuan's grim expression, Dia couldn't bear to speak, but she also knew she had to. So, in an unprecedented gentle tone, she said, the items are currently at Jiulong Mountain. The person involved is Shangguan. Enough. Zhang Xiaochuan interrupted Dia, I understand. After hearing the result, his expression softened, shifting from depression to a sense of longing as he murmured, Shangguan Fengwan. Was it you that night? Originally, Zhang Xiaochuan thought knowing who was involved would make him want to kill them immediately, but now, realizing it was Yao Yao who helped her mother steal from him, he couldn't bring himself to hate her. It just seemed a bit ridiculous. That girl could have just asked openly instead of resorting to such tactics. After a moment, Zhang Xiaochuan said, have the individual check what happened at Julong Mountain and what they plan to do. As for this theft, let us pretend nothing happened. And don't bring it up again. Dia opened her mouth, wanting to offer some comforting words, but seeing that Zhang Xiaochuan seemed to have come to terms with it. She responded, understood. After Dia's report, Zhang Xiaochuan had no interest in making cakes anymore, so he decided to take a break and head back to his room. At that moment, Luo Xiaohu arrived, saying, Erlang, the Prince of Longevity has sent an invitation. Zhang Xiaochuan was somewhat surprised. Prince Li Zhao? What does he want with me? He took a look at the message and realized it was not a formal invitation, but rather an invitation to a banquet, asking him to come over for a drink. This left Zhang Xiaochuan even more puzzled. Why is this guy inviting me? But since I'm in a bad mood, I might as well go have a drink and see what he's up to. He then said, reply to him that I will tidy up and head over shortly. Currently, Prince Li Zhao did not have an independent residence, but was staying in a courtyard within the Ten Kings residence. By the time Zhang Xiaochuan arrived, the guests had already gathered, and they were just waiting for him to take his seat before starting. Zhang Xiaochuan looked around and noticed there weren't many people, mostly acquaintances. Li Xiao and Yang Hui were present, along with two female guests. One was sitting next to Yang Hui and was presumably Princess Xiani. The other was dressed in luxurious attire, likely another princess, but Zhang Xiaochuan did not recognize her. Zhang Xiaochuan humbly said, I'm late. Thank you, Lord Xiao, and everyone for waiting for me. These small items are just a token of my apology. As he spoke, Luo Xiaohu, who came with him, took out a wooden box and then pulled out several small boxes, each about 4 inches square, distributing them to everyone present. Zhang Xiaochuan also took one, opened it, and revealed its contents. Everyone, this is a miniature version of a sundial that can be worn on the wrist to tell time, hence it is called a wristwatch. He then briefly introduced how to read the watch face. Upon hearing this, everyone was astonished. In ancient times, people primarily relied on the sound of bells and gongs to tell time, but these methods were relatively fixed in location, making it difficult to know the time when one was at home. Most of the time, they relied on instinct. If this truly was a miniature sundial, it would be incredibly precious. Several people opened their boxes, and on the watch face, the 12-time divisions were marked. Li Zhao exclaimed, it's a quarter past the hour. Look, the hands are still moving. The others also expressed their admiration, mimicking Zhang Xiaochuan by wearing the watches on their wrists and inspecting them from various angles, which amused Zhang Xiaochuan greatly. After the excitement subsided, everyone gradually returned to calm. Yang Hui, being quite sharp-witted, was the first to remember the purpose of this evening's gathering and said, thank you very much for the generous gift from the Marquis of Shuzhou. This item is truly valuable. Although I feel a bit embarrassed to accept it, I cannot help but love it dearly, so I will graciously accept it. Thank you once again. You're too kind, replied the prince. Let me introduce the Marquis of Shuzhou. This is my wife, Princess Xiani. Zhang Xiaochuan bowed and said, I have met Princess Xiani. Princess Xiani returned the greeting, saying, you honor me, Marquis of Shuzhou. Yang Hui gestured towards another lady, saying, this is Princess Lingchong. Zhang Xiaochuan bowed to Princess Lingchong as well. Yang Hui then explained that tonight's gathering was meant to resolve some previous misunderstandings between Lord Shou and Zhang Xiaochuan at Fengfei Tower, hoping to turn hostility into friendship. However, Zhang Xiaochuan felt that everything seemed rather strange. Nevertheless, he decided to go with the flow, thinking that he was just there to enjoy the drinks. Chapter 272. Caught in the act, everyone was very friendly towards Zhang Xiaochuan, and they exchanged drinks and enjoyed themselves. There were even song and dance performances. However, after a few drinks, Zhang Xiaochuan began to feel quite lightheaded. He shook his head vigorously, thinking, this isn't right. Even strong liquor shouldn't affect me this quickly. Why do I feel so restless? Realizing something was off, Zhang Xiaochuan exclaimed, could it be that someone has drugged me? But who could it be? Just as he tried to think further, his mind began to lose its ability to reason. At that moment, Yang Hui exchanged a glance with Li Xiao and approached Zhang Xiaochuan, saying, it seems that the Marquis of Shuzhou is not good with alcohol. Perhaps we should help him to a guest room to rest. His words were directed at Luo Xiaohu, who promptly assisted Yang Hui in escorting Zhang Xiaochuan to the guest room. After they exited the room, Yang Hui turned to Luo Xiaohu and the other attendants of Zhang Xiaochuan, saying, the Marquis of Shuzhou is resting inside. You all should take a break as well. There will be someone here to look after things. One attendant attempted to speak, but was held back by Luo Xiaohu, who said, in that case, thank you, Your Highness. Luo Xiaohu and a few others returned to the side hall where the servants rested and ate. One of the accompanying guards remarked, Xiaohu, is it really okay to leave Erlang like that? He clearly fell under the influence of something, and I noticed there were women in that room, possibly that Lingchong. Luo Xiaohu quickly covered the guard's mouth and said, I know, that's why I came out. But what if Erlang? Luo Xiaohu, with an enigmatic expression, reassured him, don't worry, Erlang is into this sort of thing. Just enjoy your drinks, and after everything is done, we'll bring Erlang back. Zhang Xiaochuan had a long dream, a rather strange one where he ended up with the princess he had just met today. Suddenly, he heard a sobbing sound. Is that crying? Am I imagining things? No. This feeling. Did I really? Zhang Xiaochuan sat up quickly. Although his head was still a bit foggy, the beauty beside him was crying. And it was none other than the princess. Zhang Xiaochuan felt a pang of dread. These guys have plotted against me. But how could Luo Xiaohu and the 4 guards let me fall into this trap? Is Uncle Xiaohu in danger? What do they want by having me sleep with the princess? Should I comfort her first? After sitting up, Zhang Xiaochuan stared blankly at the princess. Seeing him unresponsive, she buried her head in his chest, sobbing, "What did you do to me? You're a bad person. I'll tell my father to chop off your head." "Chop off my head? How ruthless. What should I do now? Do I need to activate Plan A?" Zhang Xiaochuan thought as he hastily rummaged through his clothes, disregarding his lack of attire, and excitedly grabbed a black jade pendant, clutching it tightly. If anything went wrong, he would press the button to summon help. Holding the locator alarm in his hand, Zhang Xiaochuan felt a bit steadier, and his wits began to return. They probably don't want my life. Why go through so much trouble just to have me sleep with the princess? It can't be that simple. Everyone knows that the princess of the Tang dynasty is free-spirited and loves fun. Keeping young men before marriage and giving her husband a chance to raise them afterward is common practice. So, sleeping with the princess shouldn't cost me my life. But what do they really want? Having figured things out, Zhang Xiaochuan looked at the still-crying princess. A surge of desire washed over him. He embraced her, seemingly comforting her while actually taking advantage of the situation. Just as things were about to escalate, the door was kicked open. Zhang Xiaochuan erupted in anger. "Who is it?" "It's Xiao Hu, Prince Shou, and the Duke. They went to catch Erlang in the act," Luo Xiaohu said. "We should go take a look too. We can't let Erlang be wronged. Li Zhao and Li Xiu, if you two are here to witness my disgrace, congratulations, you've succeeded." Li Zhao, hands on her hips, exclaimed angrily, "Zhang Xiaochuan, what nonsense are you spouting? I kindly invited you to my residence for a feast. How could you commit such a beastly act? Keep acting. Just keep acting." Li Zhao felt a bit guilty and at a loss when Yang Hui said, "Zhang Xiaochuan, stop falsely accusing others. Right now, we are discussing your actions that have damaged Ling Chang's reputation." Princess Xiani moved closer to Ling Chang, wrapping her in clothing. Li Mao returned to the script and continued, "You have tarnished Ling Chang's purity today, and the only way to make amends is with your life." Zhang Xiaochuan couldn't bear to expose Li Mao's exaggerated performance. There was no real sense of impending death, as it was clear he was saying, "I have conditions, you should ask me what they are." At that moment, Zhang Xiaochuan had already put on his clothes, stood up to straighten himself, and was about to retort when Princess Ling Chang suddenly said, "No, we can't take his life." Princess Xiani replied, "Ling Chang, why are you still pleading for him? He has ruined your purity. But I have long admired the Marquis of Shuzhou. And now that I've given my body to him, as long as he is willing to take responsibility." As she spoke, Ling Chang shyly buried her head in Princess Xiani's embrace, her chest-hugging skirt revealing a hint of white, which was almost too enticing. Zhang Xiaochuan inwardly sighed. How ruthless. Princess Xiani, unaware of someone's lewd thoughts, said, "Marquis of Shuzhou, since Ling Chang has pleaded for you, you should bear some responsibility as well. While you can escape the death penalty today, you can't avoid the consequences. However, it's not really a punishment. Rather, it seems you are gaining a great advantage. I wonder what the Marquis of Shuzhou thinks." Zhang Xiaochuan was confused, thinking, what does she mean by that? Yang Hui put on a fierce expression and said, "Do you still want to play dumb? You have ruined Ling Chang's purity. Your only options are death or marriage." Princess Xiani advised, "In my opinion, the best course of action now is for you to marry Ling Chang, which would make everyone happy. Don't mislead yourself." Zhang Xiaochuan thought, "So this is their goal, to make me marry the princess. What is this? Are they really good people? Or do they know I'm a time traveler with future technology and are preparing to fawn over me? So many questions. What is the conspiracy hidden behind this? In any case, I absolutely cannot agree. I have to find a way to muddle through." Just as Yang Hui and Princess Xiani were working together to confuse Zhang Xiaochuan, he was about to retort when Luo Xiaohu arrived with the Plum Blossom Guards. Zhang Xiaochuan felt a wave of relief, but also an unnamed anger rose within him. "Luo Xiaohu, where have you been? Do you know I was drugged?" Luo Xiaohu, calm and composed, walked to Zhang Xiaochuan's side and whispered, "Yeah, so how was it? Did you have fun?" Chapter 273. A good sleep. Hearing that Luo Xiaohu knew he had been drugged yet did nothing to stop it, Zhang Xiaochuan was immediately furious. "You knew I was drugged. And you didn't save me?" Luo Xiaohu scratched his head. "Why should I save you? There's no danger. Isn't being drugged more fun? Alright, as long as there's no life-threatening danger, you don't care about anything else, right?" After finally sending that useless Teng Yi away, "I didn't expect you to be just as useless. I'm going to find Uncle Mo to change guards." Luo Xiaohu looked puzzled. "Erlang, that's not fair. Why are you getting angry for no reason? Did I do something wrong? Is it wrong not to stop you from sleeping with the princess?" Zhang Xiaochuan was instantly speechless, thinking, what he said seems reasonable, and I can't refute it. No, something feels off, but I can't quite pinpoint what's wrong. Princess Xiani also had a bad temper. Seeing the two chatting animatedly, she interrupted angrily, "Zhang Xiaochuan, stop babbling here. This matter must be addressed today, or I will definitely report to my father and seek justice for Ling Chang." Zhang Xiaochuan had already figured it out, since there were already 12 at home. One more wouldn't make much of a difference. So he said, "Fine, I agree. I will definitely give Princess Ling Chang an explanation." Although Zhang Xiaochuan felt that adding another woman was no big deal, he still sensed a trap, a big one. Therefore, he deliberately spoke ambiguously. However, Princess Xiani insisted. "What do you mean by an explanation?" "It means marrying Ling Chang, officially and publicly. I want you to petition to marry Princess Ling Chang. Or else everyone will know about today's events, and it will be your end." Realizing that he couldn't dodge this, Zhang Xiaochuan had no choice but to reply. "Okay, I agree. Is that enough? Princess Xiani added. You have 3 days to submit the petition, otherwise you will bear the consequences. Great. I can't even use the delaying tactic anymore. Zhang Xiaochuan huffed as he took Luo Xiaohu away. Uncle Xiaohu, look at the mess you've made. You didn't even protect me. What should I do now? Erlang, you're going too far. It's just marrying a princess. Haven't you married enough already? Don't forget, there are 6 more princesses in Shuzhou waiting for you. You're driving me crazy. I want to marry the princess. Let anyone do as they please. After Zhang Xiaochuan left, Yang Hui said to Princess Xiani and the others. We still have to go to the emperor to report this later. Let us sort out our words first. Because Li Longji was very domineering, especially towards his sons. The princes were generally afraid of him, and Li Zhao was no exception. Li Zhao timidly asked, didn't Zhang Xiaochuan agree? Why do we still have to see father? Princess Xiani, seeing Li Zhao as cowardice, was furious. What do you know? Zhang Xiaochuan has agreed. But can you guarantee he won't go back on his word? Besides, do you really think such a big matter can be hidden from father? Li Zhao was somewhat dumbfounded. Then, you don't need to go. I will go with the prince and Ling Chong to see father. Sleep well. Father, what do you say? Facing Princess Xiani's inquiry, Li Longji jolted. How did I let that slip? He then said nervously, it's nothing. I was just saying that Zhang Xiaochuan has some guts. How dare he bully our Princess Ling Chong? Guards. Father. Princess Xiani quickly interrupted Li Longji. Please let me finish speaking before you deal with Zhang Xiaochuan. Then continue, Li Longji said. Princess Xiani continued recounting the events after catching him in bed. Li Longji appeared angry on the surface, but inwardly he was overjoyed. He had been troubled about how to keep Zhang Xiaochuan's power in check while ensuring his loyalty. Unexpectedly, these kids provided him with a surprise. What could be more effective than a marriage alliance? Li Longji felt somewhat regretful for not thinking of marrying off a princess earlier. Brilliant. Truly brilliant. He could hardly contain his delight. Princess Xiani had finished her account, but Li Longji's expression was twisted, and he remained silent, unable to hold back. Princess Xiani shouted, Father, please make a decision. Li Longji finally came to his senses, restoring his cold and imposing expression. With a hint of anger, that damn Zhang Xiaochuan, Ling Chong, how do you want this kid to die? Princess Ling Chong thought, didn't Sister Xiani just make it very clear? Why is father asking again? However, since the emperor asked her, she had to repeat. Father, the Marquis of Shuzhou has just made great contributions. And if we punish him for this, it will make our royal family seem petty. As long as he is willing to marry me. It's no big deal for me to endure some grievances. My child understands the greater good. Didn't you say he would submit a proposal to marry within 3 days? Then I will wait for him for 3 days. If I don't see the marriage proposal by then, I can directly issue an edict to grant the marriage. Thank you, father. Zhang Xiaochuan thought to himself. How did I end up sleeping with the princess just from drinking? No matter the conspiracy, a fair-skinned and beautiful princess, who is still a maiden. This is quite a gain. But how do I write this marriage proposal? This is really troublesome. At a loss, he thought about asking someone for advice, when unexpectedly, Li Shizhi came to visit, which was a stroke of luck. Zhang Xiaochuan greeted Li Shizhi from afar. Minister Li, your presence truly brightens this humble abode. You brat, you're sweet-talking me. Did you do something to let me down? You flatter me. I'm just very happy to see Minister Li. Please, have a seat. After Li Shizhi was seated, he pointed at Zhang Xiaochuan. You brat, being so polite today makes my trip worthwhile. Is there something you want to discuss? Indeed. But from your demeanor, it seems you have something to say as well. Since my matter isn't urgent, why don't you speak first? By the way, I haven't congratulated you on being granted the title of Marquis of Shuzhou yet. So congratulations. Knowing Li Shizhi well, Zhang Xiaochuan realized that the old man was being overly polite and roundabout, clearly having something to instruct him while also looking to enjoy some food and drink. So he followed the conversation. On account of your congratulations, I can't skip today's meal. Li Shizhi nodded in satisfaction, indicating for Zhang Xiaochuan to continue. Zhang Xiaochuan then mentioned his desire to marry the princess, but his inability to write the proposal. Li Shizhi shook his head. You're still thinking about writing the proposal? It seems I've come at just the right time. Zhang Xiaochuan was puzzled. Does this mean I can't write it? And you already know about my affair with Princess Ling Chong? Of course. Now everyone with some power in Chang'an knows. Damn. Didn't we agree to keep it a secret? Then His Majesty must know too. Li Shizhi looked at Zhang Xiaochuan as if he were a fool. The entire Wang residence is filled with His Majesty's people. What is the difference between you sleeping in the Xingqing Palace with the princess? Why would His Majesty be surprised? Zhang Xiaochuan slapped his forehead. You make a good point. I wonder what His Majesty's attitude is after knowing. Li Shizhi replied. What attitude could it be? Naturally, he is overjoyed and will do everything to facilitate it. Really? Isn't that quite good? Alas, look at your excited face. You're still smiling now. You really don't understand the intricacies of this matter. Zhang Xiaochuan saw that Li Shizhi didn't seem to be joking, and his heart sank. He hurriedly asked, could it be that marrying the princess has some taboos? Li Shizhi thought to himself, it's still a taboo. In the Tang dynasty, which good person marries a princess? Just look at what they all are. The reason Li Shizhi thought this way was that the princesses of the Tang dynasty were too free and open. They engaged in all sorts of misconduct before marriage, cheated after marriage, frequently remarried, and even abused their husbands. In short, they committed every wrongdoing a wife could commit. To give a few examples, Princess Gaoyang, the daughter of Li Shimin, married Fang Xuanling's son Fang Jun, But not only did she cheat after marriage, she also incited Feng Jun to participate in a rebellion, which ultimately led to the annihilation of Feng Xuanling's family. Princess Taiping participated in politics by sending her mother, Wu Zetian, male lovers, and even launched a coup to seize the throne from her father, Li Longji. Princess Annal, in order to initiate a coup, had an affair that resulted in poisoning her father. As for keeping male lovers and cheating, those were basic operations that didn't even need examples. Therefore, in the Tang dynasty, noble families feared princesses, and no one was willing to marry one. Seeing that Zhang Xiaochuan really didn't understand, Li Shizhi couldn't say some things too directly, so he tentatively asked, "Do you know that most princesses are quite casual about relationships?" "I know a little about that," Zhang Xiaochuan replied, "but as for Princess Lingchong, you should know. Although Princess Lingchong has a decent reputation, you don't see the whole picture. I'm just looking out for you. My advice is, unless absolutely necessary, you shouldn't marry a princess." Zhang Xiaochuan misunderstood and thought he was talking about being with a princess. So he lewdly smiled. "Li Xiang, you're being too straightforward. What do you mean by not being with a princess?" "The key is, I've already been with a princess." Li Shizhi was confused. "What do you mean you've already been with her? At most, you just slept with her." Zhang Xiaochuan then realized that when Li Shizhi said marrying a princess, it wasn't what he thought. It took him a moment to react, and he slapped his forehead. "So what you meant was marrying a princess is fine, but I shouldn't marry a princess? Why are you still talking nonsense?" "Oh, I see now." Although he understood Li Shizhi's meaning, Zhang Xiaochuan still didn't understand what was so scary about marrying a princess. As a time traveler, he had formed a strange confidence. So he continued to ask, "But why can't I marry a princess?" "It's also because I've had so much to drink with you that I'm giving you this advice. Once you marry a princess, you can't marry other women. With your sentimental nature, it would be hard for you to bear. If you end up doing something irreversible, that would be bad." Zhang Xiaochuan suddenly realized, right? I can't marry other women. Wouldn't that make my current wives very sad? How should I comfort them? Seeing that Zhang Xiaochuan was still entangled in how to comfort his current wives, Li Shizhi knew he had wasted his breath. So he spoke more directly. "This isn't about comforting them. If you marry a princess, all these women in your home will have to be sent away. If the princess is even a bit jealous, those women's lives wouldn't be safe. Do you understand?" "What?" Zhang Xiaochuan jumped up directly. "Is it that serious? I can't possibly send these women away. Even though the wedding hasn't been held yet, they are all my recognized wives." Zhang Xiaochuan slapped himself. "How cruel. How did I not think of that? It turns out this grandson Li Mao wants my wives' lives." Li Shizhi saw Zhang Xiaochuan jumping anxiously and scolded him for his lack of ambition. "You only just realized it now? It's too late. You didn't think about it before sleeping with the princess." "No, that's not right. Many have slept with the princess, and they haven't all married her. If they didn't marry, it's because the princess didn't want to, or the emperor didn't want to. Now both the emperor and the princess hope for you to marry, so you must marry, whether you want to or not," Zhang Xiaochuan said gloomily. "So I'm stuck with this, right?" Li Shizhi replied. "Don't act so wronged. Being appreciated by the emperor is an honor for you. The reason I'm telling you all this is so you can make early plans for the women in your family." Zhang Xiaochuan looked at Li Shizhi, as if he had grasped a lifeline. "You have a way, don't you?" "I know you do. Just name your conditions. I can even give you the recipe for the wine." Li Shizhi said dejectedly. "That condition is quite tempting. I really want that wine recipe. Unfortunately, sigh. There's nothing I can do, and I can't blame you. I'll think of another way. Thank you for your advice. You're too polite, Lord of Shuzhou. Let me remind you of a few things. You can try to postpone the wedding date. It can't be too long, but royal ceremonies are complicated. So a year or so isn't a problem." Zhang Xiaochuan's eyes lit up. "Thank you for the suggestion, Lord." Li Shizhi continued. "I'm not finished yet. If the princess does something inappropriate during this time, you can make a big deal out of it, even cancel the engagement. Your advice has really helped me a lot. Thanks again. I'll send someone to organize a banquet right away." Li Shizhi stopped him, saying, "Your drinking capacity isn't great. You want to enjoy it. How about this? I've arranged to have a small drink with Grand Scholar He and Prince Ruyang at Fengfei Tower. Why don't you send the food and wine there?" Zhang Xiaochuan didn't have the mood to enjoy a banquet with Li Shizhi, given the chaos surrounding the princess situation, so he readily agreed to the suggestion. After Li Shizhi left, Zhang Xiaochuan fell into deep thought. He hadn't expected to be in such a difficult situation. If he married the princess, how could he face the women in his life? If he didn't marry, wouldn't he have suffered humiliation for nothing by currying favor with the emperor? Although rebelling was an option, it was too troublesome to become emperor. Rebellion should only be a last resort, and he needed to cultivate enough talent to support the empire's operation first. For now, he decided to follow Li Shizhi's advice and use a delaying tactic, seeking the engagement and postponing the wedding for a year or so. However, he needed to be prepared for both scenarios. Being too passive was dangerous, and he had to be ready to change rulers at any moment. Thinking of this, Zhang Xiaochuan immediately summoned Day. "Compile the information on the group school for me. The more detailed, the better. Also, notify Uncle Mo to prepare a report on the recent intelligence regarding Li Xiqian. Once the materials are ready, I need to call Uncle Mo." After giving the instructions, he noticed Day was still standing there. Zhang Xiaochuan asked, "Is there anything else? Are you really going to marry the princess?" Day asked, somewhat incredulously. "Humph. Sigh." Chapter 275. The Great Tang Science and Technology Academy. Zhang Xiaochuan was reading about the construction and operation status of the Great Tang Science and Technology University. The initial plan was to select geniuses, teach them, and then have them teach elites, who would then teach ordinary students. This model had achieved great results, and there were now over 10,000 students enrolled. The genius class consists of 50 students, encompassing talents in literature, mathematics, physics, chemistry, and the arts. The defining feature of these geniuses is their incredibly fast learning pace. They have already begun studying university-level courses while teaching elementary and high school subjects to 600 elite class students. These 600 elites are responsible for teaching nearly 10,000 students in the regular classes. Due to the current special circumstances, a rapid and intensive education approach is being employed. As Zhang Xiaochuan puts it, it's a crash course, compressing the normal 9 years of compulsory education into just 2 years. The reason for this short time frame is that only essential knowledge is covered, and the students age range from 6 to 18. For those over 18, a separate literacy class has been established, while exceptionally gifted individuals can still join either the elite or genius classes, which have no age restrictions. Additionally, students in the genius and elite classes are required to participate in various technology research and development projects, euphemistically called professional practice courses. The large number of students is due to Zhang Xiaochuan's school having no admission barriers, and most importantly, it does not charge tuition. Moreover, students in the elite and genius classes receive subsidies that are even higher than the salaries of regular employees at a major technology group, and, most crucially, they are provided with meals, 3 times a day, with meat at every meal. The current students are children of ordinary citizens from the major technology group in the local area. Classes have already begun in neighboring regions, and the number of students is expected to increase exponentially. The first phase of the university campus has been completed and can currently accommodate just over 10,000 students. The second phase has also begun construction, and once completed, it is expected to house 50,000 students. Although this development is progressing well and at a sufficient pace, it still feels a bit rushed. At this moment, a call from Mo Tianji came through. Zhang Xiaochuan answered and said, "Uncle Mo, I just finished reviewing the Academy's information. I wonder how your preparations for the materials on Li Xiqian are going." Mo Tianji replied, "There is nothing unusual about Li Xiqian's behavior. Since he received the recipe from you, he has been learning culinary skills and is now the head chef at a newly established elementary school in the region. He also asked someone to convey his thanks to you for helping him find meaning in his life." Zhang Xiaochuan was speechless, realizing that this wasteful prince had completely let himself go and was truly prepared to be a chef for life. He originally intended to support him in returning to the political arena. If a rebellion were to occur, it would be difficult to control the other princes. Only by bringing him back from the brink could they gain the maximum leverage. Thinking this over, Zhang Xiaochuan said, "I believe that if it comes down to it, I may have to initiate a coup. To maximize our benefits after the coup, I need to cultivate a compliant candidate for the throne." "You mean Li Xiqian?" "Exactly. Arrange for someone to work on his mindset and strive to make him useful to me as soon as possible. If necessary, we can reveal some strength." Mo Tianji confidently replied. He seems to have fallen in love with cooking, but in reality, that is just a cover for his inner thoughts. After receiving decades of royal education, he has been preparing for that position even in his sleep. How could he truly be content with just a little guidance? His ambitions will grow wildly, and then "You're right. I trust you with this matter. Let's talk about the situation at Wanlong Mountain. How is the investigation going?" Mo Tianji sighed and said, "Sigh, the matter has been clarified. It turns out that Yao Nyangzi and Shangwan Fenglan colluded to steal weapons and supplies. Currently, there are more than 3,000 people at Wanlong Mountain, and after receiving the supplies, they are intensifying their recruitment efforts. It seems they might be preparing for rebellion." Zhang Xiaochuan excitedly banged on the table and said, "No way, with the supplies we've lost, if they rebel, it will have a huge impact on the court and seriously disrupt my plans. Can I take them down now?" Mo Tianji thought for a moment and replied, "It depends on how you want to take them down. If you want to defeat or shoot them, that is as easy as eating and drinking. However, if you want to capture them without harm, it might be very difficult unless they don't resist." Zhang Xiaochuan firmly stated, "It must be a capture without harm. Given that they currently have powerful firearms, it would be better for me to talk to her face to face." "All right, I will arrange for someone to make contact," Mo Tianji said. After giving his instructions, Zhang Xiaochuan continued, "The matter with Princess Lingchong is already settled. The only way forward is to seek to marry the princess and use the delay in the wedding date to find a perfect solution. But I don't have a good way to delay it right now. I wonder if Uncle Mo has any good suggestions." Mo Tianji replied, "That's simple. Just say that out of respect for the princess and the royal family, you need to build a separate palace for marrying the princess. Building it over a year or 2 is quite normal. By then, you can make it larger. 3 to 5 years wouldn't be a problem." Zhang Xiaochuan suddenly realized, "Yes, that is good. Let us do it this way. I will draft the memorial immediately and go to the palace to see the emperor." "Wait, is there anything else Uncle Mo needs to mention?" "There is something. The eldest lady asked me to keep it from you. But I think it's better to tell you," Mo Tianji said. Zhang Xiaochuan anxiously replied, "Don't hesitate, just say it." Mo Tianji said, "Yao Nyangzi heard that you were going to marry the princess and fell ill from anxiety. It's quite serious." "What? Yao is sick? Has she seen a doctor? How is she now?" "I will go back right away. Don't rush. Yao Nyangzi is not in immediate danger. It's just that the treatment isn't very effective. As they say, a heart ailment needs a heart remedy. If it's convenient for you, you should come back. But don't blame the eldest lady. She is also doing this for your own good. Hearing that there was no immediate danger, Zhang Xiaochuan felt relieved and said, You let my elder brother pretend to be sick, so I can use that as an excuse to go back. I will go to the palace to see the emperor. In Xingqing Palace, Li Longji looked at the memorial in his hand, and then at Zhang Xiaochuan. This is your writing, still so crude. But since the words are sincere, I want to pursue it. However, you still need to learn how to write better. How dare you say my writing is crude? This is called vernacular. If you don't understand, don't blabber, he thought to himself but respectfully replied, Your Majesty is correct. Li Longji pretended to be angry and said, You must treat Lingchong well in the future. If it weren't for her pleading for you, I would never let you off so easily. Seizing the opportunity, Zhang Xiaochuan said, Your Majesty, in order to repay your and the princess's kindness, I have decided to build a new palace for Princess Lingchong to welcome her. I hope your majesty will grant me permission. Chapter 276. Returning in glory when Li Longji heard that Zhang Xiaochuan was planning to build a new palace for Princess Lingchong, he immediately beamed with joy. Good. Prince Consort. You are thoughtful. This matter is approved. Zhang Xiaochuan feigned hesitation, looking quite troubled. Li Longji, not pleased, said, If you have something to say, just say it. Being coy is not like you. Although the emperor had seen through him, Zhang Xiaochuan still put on a show before speaking. Well, your majesty. The scale of the palace I intend to build for the princess might be a bit large, so it will take longer to complete. As for the wedding date, that makes sense. If it's too small, it won't convey sincerity. How long do you estimate it will take? I plan to build a grand palace at the confluence of the Weishui and Baha rivers, covering about 500 acres, so it will take approximately 3 years. Li Longji exclaimed, What? Are you serious? Absolutely. That's not acceptable. Generally, the residences of nobles and lords are only about 100 acres. Even Princess Taiping, who is among the most favored, has a residence of only about 200 acres. Zhang Xiaochuan was puzzled. But is there a specific requirement for the size of the residence? A smaller one wouldn't express my affection for the princess. Gao Lisher couldn't hold back any longer and whispered, The imperial palace is only 2,000 acres. Why do you need to build such a large house for the princess? Zhang Xiaochuan immediately understood, thinking, feelings are bigger than the palace. The emperor's face would be at stake. So he explained, Your Majesty. The actual area of the princess's residence will only be about 300 acres. The additional area is for a garden with various entertainment facilities, which will be open to the public for enjoyment. The palace is more for reputation. Alternatively, I could convert this area into a royal garden to present to your majesty, which would also include the residence for the princess. What do you think? Upon hearing it would be a place for entertainment, Li Longji thought, with Zhang Xiaochuan's creativity, it will surely be a wonderful place. Moreover, presenting it to the royal family will also bring me honor. He then agreed. Well, that sounds excellent. I reluctantly agree to let Lingchong marry you, with the wedding set for 3 years from now. The specific date will be arranged by the Ministry of Rights, and a decree will be issued soon. Zhang Xiaochuan quickly expressed his gratitude, and after finishing, he said, Your Majesty, I have one more request. Li Longji said, Speak. My elder brother is seriously ill, and since I have been away from home for a long time, I wish to return to visit him. Li Longji considered for a moment and replied, Filial piety is paramount. Since your elder brother is gravely ill, you should go back to see him. I permit it. However, I wonder when the installation of the lights will be completed, as it has been a while. Zhang Xiaochuan said, Thank you, Your Majesty. The installation of the lights is nearing completion and will be finished within half a month. I will return from my visit in no more than 10 days. So it won't delay the completion ceremony. After discussing the matters, Zhang Xiaochuan was dismissed. Li Longji looked up at the glowing electric lights above, which were temporary lights installed using a generator. He thought, These lights are truly bright and quite miraculous. Currently, only my study is installed with them. Once the electricity from the power plant connects, illuminating the entire Chang'an will be a magnificent sight. At that time, I, who pride myself on being an eternal emperor, will have a bit more confidence. After Zhang Xiaochuan left the palace, he immediately arranged for work and handover, feeling an intense longing to return home. Everyone now knew that Zhang Xiaochuan had a helicopter, and although it was gifted to the emperor, how could he not keep one for himself? However, to avoid any suspicion, Zhang Xiaochuan boarded his helicopter only after leaving the city of Chang'an. As he watched the mountains and rivers swiftly pass beneath him, his heart raced with anticipation. By the time he arrived in Suzhou, it was already getting dark, making it difficult to see the ground clearly. He could only see the circular lights surrounding the helipad. But as the helicopter descended, Zhang Xiaochuan noticed a dense crowd of black dots. As he continued to lower, he realized that the dark mass was a sea of people. When Zhang Xiaochuan stepped out of the helicopter, the bustling crowd suddenly fell silent. A clear and resonant voice shouted, Kneel. The crowd responded like ripples on a calm surface, quickly kneeling in unison. Before Zhang Xiaochuan could react, the voice rang out again. Welcome back, little celestial master. Bow down. The crowd echoed the call, their voices shaking the skies, and the sound of bowing was uniform and synchronized. Zhang Xiaochuan's heart trembled under the wave of sound, filled with a mix of emotions, warmth, pride, gratitude, and resonance. The welcoming cries washed over his soul like a resounding bell, and for a moment, He felt as if he had truly become a deity. After the crowd had bowed 3 times, they fell silent. Zhang Xiaochuan rubbed his slightly moist eyes and spoke. Dear fellow townsfolk, I am Zhang Xiaochuan, and I am back. Little Celestial Master. Little Celestial Master. Little Celestial Master. Zhang Xiaochuan raised his hand to calm them down. It was hard to tell if they noticed, but the crowd quieted. The sheer number of people felt like more than 10,000. Whether it was the influence of the moment or an awakening of his leadership qualities. Zhang Xiaochuan spoke confidently. I appreciate everyone coming to welcome me. This is a bit too grand, and I feel quite overwhelmed. I originally planned to return home quietly and never expected such a scene. Otherwise, I would have brought some local specialties from the capital. But to be honest, the things in the capital aren't as good as those from our group. The capital has many officials, but that doesn't make for specialties. If we're talking about what the capital has that our group doesn't, it would be the royals and eunuchs, but of course, that can't be brought back. At this point, the crowd chuckled lightly. After a brief pause, Zhang Xiaochuan continued, I was just joking. To thank everyone for coming to see me, I will give each of you a red envelope. Upon hearing about the generous red envelopes, the crowd erupted in cheers. Little Celestial Master. Little Celestial Master. Little Celestial Master. After the cheers died down, Zhang Xiaochuan finally descended from the stepladder beside the helicopter. The first people he saw were his elder brother and sister-in-law. Zhang Xiaochuan gave Zhang Jingren a big hug. He intended to hug his sister-in-law as well, but withdrew his hand halfway, realizing this was ancient times. However, his sister-in-law, Chao Qin, caught his hand. Chao Qin held Zhang Xiaochuan's hand, tenderly arranging his hair like a caring mother. You've grown darker and stronger. Life in the capital must have been tough. Her words shattered Zhang Xiaochuan's last bit of restraint. With tears in his eyes, he hugged Chao Qin tightly. Sister-in-law. Chao Qin gently patted Zhang Xiaochuan's back. Why are you still crying? Your wives are all here. Chapter 277. The sixth princess. Zhang Xiaochuan looked past his sister-in-law and saw Yaoer standing at the front. She appeared sickly, clearly having lost a lot of weight. And there was a hint of maturity mixed with sadness in her expression. Was this still his quirky Yao? In that moment, Zhang Xiaochuan's heart broke, and he pulled her into his embrace. Yaoer, I'm back. Hubby. Seeing Yaoer like this, Zhang Xiaochuan lost interest in chatting with others, so he said to his sister-in-law, Sister-in-law, I want to take Yaoer and the others home first. We'll see the rest tomorrow. His sister-in-law assured him to go ahead. She would take care of the rest. At Zhang Xiaochuan's villa in the new estate, he held Yaoer closely and said softly, Tonight, I want to spend time with you. No, hubby. I'm still recovering from my illness and can't serve you. Let the other sisters take care of you tonight. You're sick. I came back to see you. How can I? Yaoer understood her husband's feelings, but insisted, the other sisters miss you too. You wouldn't want them to resent me, would you? Zhang Xiaochuan initially thought he would definitely spend the night with Yaoer, but if that happened, she would become the target of everyone's attention. After comforting Yaoer again, he went upstairs with a few other princesses. At this point, overthinking was pointless. Zhang Xiaochuan cast aside his worries and immersed himself in a night of tenderness, experiencing the ups and downs of the evening, which were not meant to be shared with outsiders. When Zhang Xiaochuan woke up, it was already bright outside. Looking at the princesses beside him, he confirmed it wasn't a dream and sighed. What a ridiculous situation. What was that famous saying again? To despise the foolish ruler. To understand the foolish ruler, to become the foolish ruler. You can't understand the joy of a foolish ruler, right? 1, 2, 3, 33, 14. Damn. I thought something fell off last night. Turns out there were 6 more people. In the villa's living room. Zhang Xiaochuan held Yaoer and asked the group of princesses, what is going on? Whose idea was this? The princesses exchanged glances, and none of the once proud daughters of the clan dared to speak. Finally, Su Yun mustered her courage and said, Hubby, you look so serious. As if you've suffered a great loss. Don't the younger sisters feel sad? Zhang Xiaochuan found himself at a loss for words, but upon reflection, he realized something was off. Pretending to be angry, he looked at Su Yun and said, How come you all have learned to place blame? It's because several princesses from the 6th state followed me so carelessly that it seems disrespectful to them, which is why I asked. Su Yun also adopted an angry stance and said, Humph. Didn't we follow you like this before? I didn't see you show us much respect then. Sisters, don't you agree? Zhang Xiaochuan thought to himself, it's over. If I calculate this myself, isn't that asking for trouble? After all, I'm the one benefiting here. Why pretend to be a saint? Moreover, upon closer inspection, the princesses from the 6th Zhao have their own charm, unlike the wildness of the western tribes. The scenery of Tsongshan and Irai truly deserves its reputation for being spring-like all year round, nurturing girls who are all so vibrant. Zhang Xiaochuan didn't beat around the bush and directly apologized. Alright, it was my fault. I took advantage and acted coy. I hope you won't hold it against me. Su Yun stood proudly like a victorious little rooster and replied, That's more like it. The princesses from 6 Zhao had heard that in the Great Tang, men were superior to women, and seeing Zhang Xiaochuan apologize was a refreshing change for them. Zhang Xiaochuan knew that although he couldn't be as strong as the legendary figure known for his nighttime escapades, he had been sincere last night. Ignoring the proud Su Yun, he addressed the princesses, ladies, at this point, saying more would only seem pretentious. From today onwards, you are all my wives. You will not lack what others have. So please introduce yourselves to your husband. At that moment, one of the princesses stepped forward and bowed gracefully. Husband, you flatter us. We will serve you wholeheartedly in the future. I am Meng Shi Zhao Gaziki, pleased to meet you. Another followed. Meng Xian Zhao Yuan AI, pleased to meet you. Then the third, Yu Shi Zhao Bo Lan, pleased to meet you. Zhang Xiaochuan's eyes lit up. This is truly a magnificent sight. The fourth princess introduced herself. Langqiong Zhao Junjiuli, pleased to meet you. The fifth, Shilang Zhao Qian Wang Yu, pleased to meet you. The sixth, Tang Dan Zhao Yin Shui Luo, pleased to meet you. Zhang Xiaochuan looked from left to right and then back again. With 6 vibrant princesses standing before me, if I say I'm not moved, then I'm no man at all. Besides, I'm a collector at heart. Indeed, the 6 Xiao princesses are most perfect when they're all together. Seeing Zhang Xiaochuan's infatuated expression, Su Yun murmured, look at how your eyes are only on these 6 sisters. Are you forgetting your old love for your new one? Zhang Xiaochuan shot her an embarrassed glare, wiping away some drool. All right, everyone disperse. I'll spend time with you all later. I want to talk to Yao now. As Su Yun was leaving, she couldn't resist provoking Zhang Xiaochuan, as if to say, be careful, with how lecherous you are, your body might not take it. Zhang Xiaochuan shot her a look in return, I'm strong. If you disagree, let us have another round. After the princesses left, someone came to report that the governor of Shuzhou and several officials wished to meet. Zhang Xiaochuan instructed them to wait in the company's reception room, as he wanted to check on Yaoer first. Yaoer looked at Zhang Xiaochuan and asked, is it really okay to keep them waiting? After all, he is the governor of Shuzhou. Zhang Xiaochuan replied proudly, I'm a marquis now. Making him wait in the reception room is already showing him respect. If I wanted to be disrespectful, I'd have him stand outside. Yaoer looked a bit downcast and said, in just half a year, you've already become a marquis. In time, becoming a king doesn't seem far off. Clearly stating a good thing, but why does it sound so sour? It seems this girl doesn't wish for me to be elevated, he thought. Zhang Xiaochuan comforted her with a teasing tone, saying, why are you sad? If you don't like me being a marquis, I can just go to the emperor and resign. Yaoer quickly covered Zhang Xiaochuan's mouth, saying, husband, please don't say that. I didn't mean it that way. All right, I won't say anything, but I really want to know what is bothering you. If you tell me, I can help you share the burden. However, when Zhang Xiaochuan asked her about her worries, Yaoer's expression suddenly changed. Her brows furrowed tightly, and she bit her lip, staring blankly out the window without speaking. Zhang Xiaochuan realized Yaoer was struggling internally about whether to confide in him. So he didn't urge her, instead wrapping his arm around her shoulder and letting her be lost in thought. After a long while, Yaoer finally spoke. But her first sentence nearly scared Zhang Xiaochuan to death. Husband, please divorce me. What? Zhang Xiaochuan thought he had misheard and asked again. With tears in her eyes and a firm tone, Yaoer said, please, husband, divorce me. I have committed one of the 7 reasons for divorce. Upon hearing the mention of the 7 reasons, Zhang Xiaochuan's first reaction was that he had been wronged. In modern thinking, only that reason warranted a divorce. The others didn't seem too serious, and life could still go on. So, Zhang Xiaochuan blurted out, who is the man? Yaoer was taken aback and even forgot her sadness, asking in confusion, what do you mean, husband, the man? Yes, if there is no other man. Why would you want to leave me? Zhang Xiaochuan's perspective was so unique that Yaoer was momentarily speechless, but she quickly regained her composure and continued. It's not what you think. The 7 reasons I mentioned refer to jealousy and theft. Hearing it was about jealousy and theft, Zhang Xiaochuan let out a sigh of relief, patting his chest and saying, thank goodness, as long as it's not about another person. Husband, what are you talking about? I'm serious. Serious about what? I don't agree. I want to allow you to abandon me. Tears filled Yaoer's eyes again. Husband, I know you care for me, and I also know I took from the treasury and armory. Zhang Xiaochuan firmly denied, I don't know anything about that. How could that be? It's all our family's stuff. Even if I did take something, it shouldn't count as theft. Don't comfort me. Such a huge incident as the theft of the treasury and armory was suppressed within a day, without any investigation. It's clear that you must know I did it. And that's why it was covered up. Zhang Xiaochuan sighed. Sigh, you usually act like a little foodie and seem so scatterbrained, but now you've become so astute. Being too clever isn't necessarily a good thing. I know about it, but I don't blame you. But I blame myself. I feel unworthy to stay with you anymore. At this point, Yaoer's tears flowed like pearls from a broken string, uncontrollably streaming down. Zhang Xiaochuan held her even tighter, thinking, right now, it's not about whether to stay or leave. The key is to understand why you want to go. Zhang Xiaochuan asked. It's just some household goods. You know I don't care about that. Is there another reason? Don't hold back. Tell me everything. Since she had already spoken, it didn't matter how much more she said. So Yaoer explained everything. It turned out that the jealousy she mentioned was due to Zhang Xiaochuan marrying so many princesses. Originally, Zhang Xiaochuan was with Yaoer, both having feelings for each other. However, unexpectedly, 10 princesses emerged, which left Yaoer feeling a heavy burden in her heart. After all, her husband was becoming more and more outstanding, and only a princess would be worthy of him. She was merely a descendant of a fallen minister. Therefore, after the princesses from the Eastern Kingdom and the Western Chang 8 nations arrived, Yaoer thought about giving up her position as a wife and willingly becoming a concubine, just to stay with Zhang Xiaochuan. Later, when Zhang Xiaochuan saved Yang Yuhuan, Yaoer was very happy. Although her husband had another woman, at least this new woman belonged to a fallen family, which made her feel a bit closer in status. However, good times did not last long, as unexpectedly 6 more princesses appeared, which made Yaoer even more depressed. Just at that moment, Shangwan Fenglan came to find Yaoer, wanting her to procure some supplies. Yaoer then shared her awkward situation regarding her status. Shangwan Fenglan, being a formidable figure, realized that this would not do. She could not allow her daughter, the main lady, to lose her status. Thus, she devised a plan. Aren't you all princesses? If I rebel and seize the throne, my daughter will also be a princess. Having made up her mind, Shangwan Fenglan encouraged Yaoer to collaborate in stealing from the group's armory. Yaoer, worried about being exposed and having heard that Zhang Xiaochuan was going to marry a princess from a powerful kingdom, eventually fell ill from the stress. Upon hearing this, Zhang Xiaochuan could only bitterly smile, thinking about the absurdity of the situation, yet he understood Yaoer. Even in modern times, there are still notions of status. Let alone in the current era. Now that he knew the reason, it was easier to resolve. With this in mind, Zhang Xiaochuan comforted her, saying, "Your concerns are understood. My dear, don't ever mention divorce again. I assure you, your future status will not be inferior to any princess." Hearing Zhang Xiaochuan's lack of reproach and comforting words made Yaoer feel as sweet as if she had eaten honey, alleviating half of her worries. After comforting Yaoer, Zhang Xiaochuan hurried to meet the governor of Shuzhou. Before he even reached the office building, he saw a large crowd, all of them officials and attendants. It seemed someone had notified them of Zhang Xiaochuan's arrival, as a group of officials was hastily exiting the building, followed closely by attendants. Although it was chaotic, they quickly regained order. When Zhang Xiaochuan approached, the governor of Shuzhou, Shirtai, along with a group of officials, greeted him in unison. Greetings to the Marquis of Shuzhou. Zhang Xiaochuan was not fond of such formalities, but given his current status, he felt he had to accept their greetings to put them at ease. He thought to himself, the Zhang family now truly wields significant power in Shuzhou, becoming a local force. After allowing them to rise, he and Shirtai led the officials into the largest conference room. They exchanged some pleasantries about the emperor's grace and mutual support. After finishing the formalities, he kept Shirtai behind and dismissed the others. This was the first opportunity for Shirtai to speak privately with Zhang Xiaochuan. Expressing his astonishment, "I never imagined that after just half a year, the Marquis of Shuzhou has gone from being a commoner to a noble. It's truly incredible," Zhang Xiaochuan said. "I must thank Ambassador Wang Zhongzi for generously passing on his military achievements to me and for his strong recommendation, which has led to my noble title. The Marquis of Shuzhou is being overly modest. I have heard some of your deeds in the capital, and those are indeed due to your merits." Not wanting to engage in small talk, Zhang Xiaochuan changed the subject. "I noticed that Inspector Shi seemed to have something to say earlier, so I kept you here. I wonder." Seeing that Zhang Xiaochuan was not interested in pleasantries, Shirtai spoke directly. "I've observed that the Zhang family has been receiving fewer goods lately, and there are reports of someone hoarding vouchers in secret. Therefore, I suspect that someone might be targeting the Zhang family, and I came to remind you." "Thank you for your concern, Inspector Shi. You seem calm. It appears you already knew and must have some countermeasures in place," Zhang Xiaochuan replied, nodding. "Just a bunch of clowns," he added lightly. However, Shirtai was alarmed by Zhang Xiaochuan's dismissive words. "Clowns? These are prominent families in the Tang dynasty. Even the emperor wouldn't dare to act recklessly against them. I truly don't know whether being on the Zhang family's side is a blessing or a curse. But as the inspector of Shuzhou, I have no choice." Shirtai was unsure of what to say and could only respond with a bitter smile. It seemed that Zhang Xiaochuan could see through Shirtai's concerns and reassured him, "Trust me, many years from now, you'll be incredibly grateful for the choice you made today." After bidding farewell to Shirtai, Zhang Xiaochuan's next task was to meet with the senior members of the group in the village. Looking at the familiar faces, he felt a wave of emotion. It had been half a year since he last saw many of them, although he had sneaked back a few times. He scanned the crowd, his eyes welling with tears before anyone could pay their respects. "It's been a long time. How has everyone been?" Suddenly, a teenager rushed out and hugged Zhang Xiaochuan tightly. "Master, Changming, it's only been half a year, but you seem to have grown taller," Zhang Xiaochuan said, ruffling Su Changming's hair. Turning to the others, he added, "There's no need for formalities. Let us sit and talk." Once everyone was seated, Zhang Xiaochuan took a closer look and noticed Li Quan and Gao Shi, giving them a nod with a smile. Chao Qin remarked, "Erlang, you've been gone for half a year, and now you've returned as a marquis. Your elder brother will have to pay respects to you now." Zhang Xiaochuan replied with mock grievance, "Sister-in-law, are you teasing me?" Everyone laughed, and Chao Qin covered her mouth with a chuckle. "All right, I won't tease you anymore. But you need to get on with the matter of the child. Marrying a princess is all well and good, but there is no progress. Speaking of which, when are you planning to hold the wedding?" "Oh, it seems another princess from the Tang dynasty has joined the mix. Everything else is thriving, but this marriage is a significant matter. Sister-in-law, let us discuss this later," Zhang Xiaochuan interjected, feeling the pressure of her nagging. Chao Qin reluctantly relented, "Fine. I know you're a marquis now, but some matters still require your attention. I want to say more." "Thank you, sister-in-law," Zhang Xiaochuan said appreciatively. Zhang Xiaochuan then addressed the crowd, saying, "Let's talk about what happened last night. Why did I cause such a commotion when I came back? Didn't I specifically ask for discretion?" Naturally, the first to respond was Mo Tianji, as Zhang Xiaochuan had only informed him about his return. Mo Tianji replied, "I only notified everyone here and reminded them not to speak out. There really weren't any others who knew." Mo Tianji thought for a moment and added, "Well, there's Wei Laosan. He is responsible for the security at the group and the estate. So I told him to enhance the protection since you were coming back. I also notified the older members at the estate and the group. As Mo Tianji spoke, his voice grew quieter. Upon hearing this, Zhang Xiaochuan exclaimed, wow. So many people know. But it shouldn't have caused such a huge fuss yesterday. He continued to ask, who else mentioned it outside? Uncle Lu quietly said, I thought since you rarely come back, we should have more people to welcome you. So I called the manager of the happiness community and those who usually perform well to greet you. Wow, with that, too many people are aware. But it seems like the entire Shuzhou Park came yesterday. That shouldn't be the real reason, Zhang Xiaochuan remarked, then inquired further, but it shouldn't be that many. Right? Is there anyone else? Alright. Chao Qin, blushing, interrupted Zhang Xiaochuan and said, I figured since you are now a marquis, this is a significant event for the family. So how could you return quietly? So, I gave everyone in the park a half day off to welcome you. This was all my idea. So whatever punishment you have in mind, just direct it at me. You really are my good sister-in-law, Zhang Xiaochuan replied. Sister-in-law, don't take it the wrong way. I mainly wanted to understand the situation, not to imply any consequences. You don't have to. Erlang has grown up and become a marquis. And now sister-in-law is also involved. I was wrong. Zhang Xiaochuan quickly interrupted, realizing he needed to soften his tone to salvage the situation. He continued, sister-in-law. You know my rapid rise in status must have made many envious, so I've been cautious for my own safety. If you don't care about your brother's well-being, then I have nothing more to say. Chao Qin actually knew she had made a mistake by creating such a fuss, but since it was already done, she couldn't truly admit fault. However, Zhang Xiaochuan had given her an opportunity, so she said, sister-in-law did overlook some things, but I won't blame you for it. Let us continue with the meeting. And just like that, the matter ended inconclusively. However, Zhang Xiaochuan's little episode was necessary. He was now a walking treasure trove. And being so high profile could lead to unforeseen dangers. He believed that after this incident, everyone would be more discreet about their movements. Since there were regular phone meetings, Zhang Xiaochuan skipped the routine content and moved directly to the special dialogue segment, inquiring about topics of interest from the participants. He first looked at Li Quan, the benefactor who had appeared in his bedroom that night, a dark-skinned bricklayer who had now grown into a seasoned construction engineer. Currently, all construction projects were under Li Quan's responsibility, and he was referred to as Chief Engineer Li wherever he went. Zhang Xiaochuan asked, Chief Engineer Li, it's not easy to meet you. Li Quan was straightforward and said, indeed, the entire region is busy with road construction, building houses, and bridging gaps. Now we also need to build railways and dig tunnels. I've been running around everywhere and specifically rushed back today. Zhang Xiaochuan couldn't help but exclaim, fortunately, I have a team. I'm so busy with the electrical wiring project in the capital that I can't keep up. With so many projects starting simultaneously, you can imagine how much stress Li Quan must be under. But while I sympathize, I can't help it all. He then smiled and said, it really is hard work for you, Chief Engineer Li. It's not hard, Li Quan replied. Although it's busy, I'm full of energy. This is my lifelong dream, to promote the construction knowledge of the Li family and ensure it's passed down. Combining the new construction techniques from my benefactor to restore the glory of our ancestors is not just a dream. As he spoke, Li Quan became a bit choked up and suddenly stood up to kneel in gratitude. Zhang Xiaochuan quickly got up to support him and, after several attempts to persuade him, he finally returned to his seat. Zhang Xiaochuan said, there's no need for you to be too concerned, Chief Engineer Li. We have a mutually beneficial employment relationship. Let us talk about the progress of the railway construction. As soon as the topic of railway construction came up, Li Quan seemed energized. Benefactor, the railway construction is going very smoothly, especially with your shield tunneling machine. Digging through mountains is like walking on flat ground. The current construction speed is astonishing. The railway from Shuzhou to Yaozhou is already completed, and this year several major transport lines will be opened. At that time, both the transport speed and capacity will be unprecedented. The completion of the railway is truly a groundbreaking achievement. Zhang Xiaochuan was impressed, thinking, fortunately, this is ancient times. As long as the local administrative leaders agree, we can proceed with the construction without the cumbersome approvals that would come later. These officials are very supportive because it reflects well on their performance. We need to take advantage of the current situation before the court formulates any policies to stop us. In Chapter 280, LED Illuminated Signs, Zhang Xiaochuan was already aware of much of the progress Li Quan mentioned. He asked to gauge how much Li Quan had grown, and hearing him discuss the various projects in detail showcased the demeanor expected of a master builder. After finishing the conversation with Li Quan, Zhang Xiaochuan turned to another person he was interested in. How is Brother Gao adapting here? Gao Shi was a well-rounded individual, educated in Confucian culture. When Zhang Xiaochuan asked him, Gao Shi quickly stood and bowed. Greetings, Lord of Shuzhou. In response to your question, I have received much support here. Not only can I showcase what I have learned, but I am also gaining a lot of new knowledge. It would not be an exaggeration to say I'm enjoying it so much that I forget about home. Seeing Gao Shi's high evaluation, Zhang Xiaochuan joked, Brother Gao, you might have misspoken. It shouldn't be forgetting home, but rather enjoying being here. Gao Shi pondered for a moment and said, wonderful. What you say is indeed profound. This alone could shed light on many things. After Gao Shi finished speaking, he felt that it was somewhat inappropriate to say this in the current situation, and his face turned a bit red. Zhang Xiaochuan, unfazed, said, Brother Gao, you speak frankly. Don't worry, I'll have someone prepare a banquet later. There will definitely be wine for you. Thank you, Your Majesty. Brother Gao, there's no need to be so formal, just be casual. Gao Shi replied earnestly, no, Your Majesty. Etiquette must not be neglected. All right, as you wish. Zhang Xiaochuan interrupted Gao Shi and continued, Brother Gao is truly talented. Your contributions were indispensable for the smooth progress of the affairs in the region. Your Majesty overpraises me. I have wandered aimlessly and faced many setbacks. And it is entirely thanks to your recognition that I have been able to stretch my wings. I vow to follow you to the death, no matter what you wish to pursue. Seeing Gao Shi pledge his loyalty, Zhang Xiaochuan was very pleased, unable to hide the smile on his face, and said, Good. With your help, great things can be accomplished. You've returned this time for the matters concerning the region, right? Exactly. Currently, the royal family has been completely controlled. But there is still no decision on the successor, so the transfer of power cannot be completed. I understand now. I will resolve this matter for you upon your return. Let us leave it at that for now. Gao Shi wanted to say something more, but seeing that Zhang Xiaochuan had ended the conversation, he had to sit down. Before Zhang Xiaochuan could ask further, Su Changming stood up excitedly and said, Master, I have something to report. Looking at Su Changming's excited expression, Zhang Xiaochuan was also curious about what surprise this young man would bring, so he nodded for him to continue. Su Changming waved his hand, and someone brought in a large plaque from outside. Just as Zhang Xiaochuan was puzzled, the plaque emitted a red light, forming 4 characters. House of the Marquis of Shuzhou. Zhang Xiaochuan's eyes lit up, and then he saw the characters change to green, with a scrolling effect appearing around the edges after a while. This was what would later be commonly seen as LED luminous characters, but today it seemed like a significant leap toward electronic screens. Zhang Xiaochuan did not expect that they would produce light-emitting diodes so quickly. Although it was just a basic application, it was not far from a real screen. It seemed that the development of printed circuit boards and chips would need to be prioritized. Just as Zhang Xiaochuan excitedly planned how to advance their technology, Su Changming asked, Master, are you satisfied with this gift from your disciple? Very satisfied, extremely satisfied. Changming, you are truly a genius. Su Changming immediately humbly replied, Master, you are too modest. I merely made this based on your materials, it's nothing special. You are the real genius. Others might not know, but Zhang Xiaochuan knew his own level. He couldn't let Su Changming continue praising him, or he would be embarrassed. So he waved his hand and said, Let us not talk about that. I am very satisfied with what you created. I just wonder why you wrote those characters. It seems there is a special reason. Su Changming replied, Master, you hit the nail on the head. Since we are now re-establishing the county and the Marquisate, I wanted to make the plaque for the Marquisate luminous and color-changing. That would definitely be one of a kind in the region and unprecedented in history. A luminous color-changing plaque. Zhang Xiaochuan silently recited in his heart, suddenly feeling a chill. What is this unique sign from the Tang dynasty? Isn't this just an LED door plate? Moreover, the red and green lights always remind people of late-night salons and massage parlors from the 1990s. How can I, a dignified marquis of the 3rd rank, have such a door plate? No way, absolutely not. Just thinking about it makes me feel socially dead. Zhang Xiaochuan said earnestly, Good disciple, you know that I am very low-key. Such an impressive plaque would surely attract jealousy. Let us just use Namu wood. Oh, I will follow your orders, Su Changming replied somewhat dejectedly, feeling it was a pity. However, he quickly self-soothed and excitedly said, Master, there's another surprise. Really? Hurry up and show me, Zhang Xiaochuan urged. The thing is too big to bring over. We need to go to the lab to see it. But you can guess what it is. Zhang Xiaochuan thought for a moment, but had no clue. As there were too many RD tasks arranged, he simply said, I can't guess, just tell me directly. Su Changming, still childlike at heart, originally wanted to show off in front of Zhang Xiaochuan, but seeing that Zhang Xiaochuan wasn't biting, he had to say, Alright, I'll just say it directly. The prototype computer has been built. Wait, Zhang Xiaochuan excitedly interrupted Su Changming, even standing up from his seat. You said computer? You mean a computer? Su Changming didn't expect Zhang Xiaochuan to be so excited, so he timidly replied, Yes, it's a computer. Where is it? Take me to see it. In the lab. But shouldn't we finish the meeting first? Zhang Xiaochuan was no longer in the mood for the meeting. The computer was the cornerstone of the information age. He never expected it would be ready so soon, and just wanted to see it immediately. It was more thrilling than marrying a princess. He said to Su Changming, Forget the meeting, let us go right now. Since Zhang Xiaochuan insisted, Su Changming had no choice but to lead him to the lab, while others dispersed from the meeting. Master, according to your instructions, the series of developments regarding the computer are strictly confidential. The prototype computer is in this independent lab. Zhang Xiaochuan looked at the lab door as Su Changming indicated. But he couldn't muster any strength in his hand on the doorknob, his palms sweating with excitement. Is the era of computers finally arriving? He wiped his sweaty palm on his clothes, gripped the doorknob tightly, and pushed the door open. What he saw in front of him received the highest praise from the future internet. Awesome. Chapter 281. Giant computer. Although it was quite different from the computers of the future, it was also much larger. But that big display and the square main unit were unmistakable. Zhang Xiaochuan rushed over, excitedly touching the rough, dark computer, his hands trembling. Quick, turn it on. Turn it on, Su Changming repeated Zhang Xiaochuan's words, scratching his head in confusion. Open it, and give me a demonstration. Hurry up. Su Changming was a bit at a loss due to Zhang Xiaochuan's excitement. Only when he heard there would be a demonstration did he respond in a dazed manner. Oh. Oh, master, let me through. You're pressing the switch. Zhang Xiaochuan withdrew his hand that was stroking the surface and looked at the iron box that resembled a computer case, puzzled. What is this switch? Yes, Su Changming replied as he opened the iron box. Inside, it was filled with numerous buttons arranged tightly, much like a manual operation panel for a fire control center. Su Changming did not open the switches in order, but entered them like a password. As he operated, Zhang Xiaochuan discovered that the glass behind the switch box was a glitchang. At that moment, the lights inside turned on, revealing what looked like a warehouse, neatly stacked with rows of black cubes, all connected by wires. This was a supersized version of a circuit board, about the size of a 200 square meter apartment. Although this isn't the computer I expected, it seems the direction is correct. I just don't know what functions it has, Zhang Xiaochuan remarked. After opening the computer, Su Changming said to Zhang Xiaochuan, currently, it can only perform addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division within 10 digits. Now, let me demonstrate for you. Zhang Xiaochuan did not speak, but nodded for Su Changming to continue. Su Changming turned on the giant display, which indeed was a screen similar to an LED display, flickering briefly before returning to black. Then Su Changming walked to a long table between the display and the switch. Zhang Xiaochuan noticed that there were more buttons on the table, labeled with the numbers 0 to 9, but these numbers were repeated in rows, resembling an abacus. Su Changming walked back to the switch and pressed a button, saying, Master, please look, it's now in addition and subtraction mode. He pressed a 4-digit addition on the densely packed numeric buttons, and the screen displayed the corresponding numbers. After Su Changming pressed what seemed to be a confirmation button, it automatically calculated the result. After doing this, Su Changming looked at Zhang Xiaochuan with excitement. Master, you are amazing. This can really calculate automatically. Su Changming praised Zhang Xiaochuan because the principles of these devices were provided by him. However, it was impressive to see it built so quickly, which also carried an implication of seeking credit. Zhang Xiaochuan naturally caught on and generously praised him. Changming, you are my pride. Theory is theory, but being able to create it is really remarkable. You are the smartest student I have ever seen. Hearing Zhang Xiaochuan's praise, Su Changming grinned foolishly. He then demonstrated subtraction and division for Zhang Xiaochuan. Each time he switched algorithms, he had to change the switch. And the complexity was something Zhang Xiaochuan found hard to criticize. Just as he was about to ask what other functions it had, Mo Tianji arrived and said with a smile, Erlang, how is it? Isn't this thing amazing? Although I also participated in its creation, I still think it's quite remarkable. Yes, remarkable, Zhang Xiaochuan replied perfunctorily. I wonder if this amazing computer has any other functions? Mo Tianji noticed Zhang Xiaochuan's lack of enthusiasm and suddenly realized. Feeling a bit embarrassed, I got a bit carried away and forgot this was designed by you, Erlang. But don't be fooled by its current simplicity. This is just the first version. Right now, it only has calculation functions, but as we continue to upgrade it, it will eventually reach the design you envisioned. That's right. It will eventually achieve the desired effect. In fact, you all have done very well, but I understand that. Mo Tianji interrupted. But it's still far from your goal, so it's understandable that you're not feeling very motivated. I was too anxious. The current research progress is already quite fast. Let us keep working on this, and once we get the semiconductor ready, we can upgrade the communication equipment first. Mo Tianji replied. Yes, how could I forget that? We can indeed upgrade the communication equipment first. After confirming that the so-called computer was just a giant calculator, Zhang Xiaochuan lost interest. The first supercomputer towering 2 stories high took over half a century from its invention to widespread practical application. However, with Zhang Xiaochuan's advantage, it wouldn't take that long. But a few years would still be necessary. After discussing the future research direction with Su Changming, who was inspired and decided to stay on for further research, Mo Tianji and Zhang Xiaochuan left the computer research laboratory. With the gradual development of technology, Zhang Xiaochuan set up separate laboratories for particularly important projects, such as the computer research lab, weapons research, medical research, and so on. After exiting, the two headed to the medical research lab, which was essentially a fully equipped miniature hospital, but with added drug and equipment research. The lab was divided into several areas and was much larger than the other labs. There were many personnel in white coats. Some were testing equipment, some were conducting animal dissections, and there were even real patients being examined. Although these patients were all internal staff. As they toured the facility, Zhang Xiaochuan asked Mo Tianji, what is the current progress of our medical research? Mo Tianji replied, the basic operating room has been set up, equipped with shadowless lamps, sterile air systems, a temperature-controlled storage room, and some basic testing equipment. Oh, that is quite fast. Can anyone perform surgeries now? Mo Tianji looked troubled and said, minor skin injuries can be treated, but anything more complex is not possible yet. The current doctors are all newly trained and need time to master human anatomy, as this is an entirely new field. Zhang Xiaochuan inquired. Have you tried finding some experienced practitioners? That might speed up the training process. We have, but the results were not as good as with the newly trained ones. Most of the experienced doctors are resistant to the new medical practices, believing that cutting open a person for treatment goes against nature. Are there no particularly talented apprentices among them? If we can't train skilled surgeons in a short time, some plans may not be feasible. Mo Tianji thought for a moment and replied, these apprentices are actually quite good. It's just that none can be considered geniuses yet. However, if we truly look for someone in this field, there is indeed a well-known practitioner who fits the bill. Stop keeping me in suspense. Who is it? Chapter 282. Alliance with the Northern Kingdom. Sigh. It's not that I'm trying to keep you in suspense, but this person is unlikely to come here. So it's pointless to mention it. Zhang Xiaochuan said. Having someone to choose from is still a hope, so please tell me. Mo Tianji thought about it, and then began to narrate. During the reign of the Taizong, there was a renowned physician with the surname Sun. You mean Sun Ximiao? Zhang Xiaochuan interrupted Mo Tianji directly. Isn't that divine physician already passed away? Yes, but this is related to him. Mo Tianji said as he glanced at Zhang Xiaochuan, signaling him to listen attentively. Zhang Xiaochuan immediately nodded in agreement. Mo Tianji continued. The divine physician made many contributions to medicine throughout his life. He conducted research on childbirth and discovered that many women died from difficult labor. He proposed a hypothesis, cesarean section. This method has similarities to your surgical techniques, but it can only be said that the conditions involved in surgery are more varied. Zhang Xiaochuan couldn't help but interject. Did he succeed? Mo Tianji replied, no. He passed away after proposing this hypothesis. However, the research did not stop. It seems his descendants continued it. One of them is Sun Ji, who is currently the deputy director of the Imperial Medical Office. With the medical legacy of the Sun family, he should be able to quickly master the surgical skills. I know this, Sun Ji. You're right. It would indeed be difficult to persuade someone in a prestigious position like the deputy director of the Imperial Medical Office to abandon it and study this unfamiliar surgical technique. But without trying, who would know? I'll see if I can arrange a meeting when I return to the capital in a few days. As they spoke, the two exited the medical laboratory and saw Gao Shi pacing back and forth, seemingly muttering to himself. Brother Gao, Zhang Xiaochuan called out. Are you waiting for me? Gao Shi quickly approached. Greetings, Your Majesty. I was indeed waiting for you. Zhang Xiaochuan said. You look like you have something urgent to discuss. Gao Shi appeared hesitant at first, but finally made up his mind. It's not very urgent, but I need to report this matter to you in person. I'm worried that you might return to Chang'an at any time, so I wanted to inform you as soon as possible, which is why I was rude to wait here. Seeing Gao Shi, who was usually straightforward, starting to beat around the bush, Zhang Xiaochuan felt that this matter was significant. Really? Then go ahead. I'm listening. Although he had received Zhang Xiaochuan's consent, Gao Shi still paused for a moment before continuing. The royal family of the Northern Kingdom wishes to present a princess to Your Majesty. She is already at the estate. What? Zhang Xiaochuan exclaimed. Like a cat that had its tail stepped on, wasn't it said that no more princesses should be brought back? Is this Ting Yi's idea? Has he returned? Tell him to come here immediately. Gao Shi knelt down with a thud. Your Majesty, please don't be angry. Oh dear, Brother Gao, what are you doing? Get up. As he spoke, Zhang Xiaochuan helped Gao Shi to his feet. You don't need to blame yourself. I know it must be Ting Yi's instigation. Although Gao Shi was helped up, he still bowed his body and said, Your Majesty has misunderstood Captain Tung. This idea is mine. Please punish me, Your Majesty. Upon hearing that it was Gao Shi's idea, and knowing his steady character would not follow Ting Yi's nonsense, Zhang Xiaochuan figured there must be a reason behind it, and said, Brother Gao, you're being too harsh. Just speak your mind. Gao Shi Dao said, the current ruler of the Biao Kingdom, Yongxiang, is quite a character. He knows that the fate of the Biao Kingdom is at its end. So he has not resisted our plans for a change of dynasty and has expressed his willingness to give the new dynasty the greatest support. He proposed a condition for exchange, that we cannot eliminate the current royal family of the Biao Kingdom. Zhang Xiaochuan nodded and said, This Yongxiang understands the importance of compromise. He is indeed a hero. This condition is acceptable, but what does it have to do with the Biao princess? Gao Shi replied. Yongxiang is worried that we might lose credibility after the change of dynasty, so he requests a marriage alliance as a guarantee. This is understandable. But didn't Ti say that we wouldn't take over the royal power of the Biao Kingdom? It would be fine to let him arrange a marriage with the new royal family. Isn't that why Yongxiang is a remarkable figure? He knows that the true master behind it all is you, Your Majesty. Zhang Xiaochuan sighed. I understand the reasoning, but it's just too much for me to handle. Anyway, we are not afraid of them. If Yongxiang is willing to support the new dynasty, I will let him off the hook. If he is unwilling to support us, then so be it. After all, this marriage, Your Majesty. Gao Shi, seeing that Zhang Xiaochuan was about to refuse, quickly interrupted. Your Majesty, please don't rush to reject it. Let us meet first. If you take a liking to her, then keep her. After all, with the support of the Biao royal family, our control over the Biao Kingdom would be much easier, which is beneficial for both sides. Moreover, throughout history, those in supreme power enjoy the beauty of the world. If Your Majesty ascends to the throne one day, this wouldn't be a loss. Shut up. Zhang Xiaochuan quickly interrupted Gao Shi, lowering his voice to ask, How come you have such thoughts? Have you been led astray by Ting Yi? Gao Shi, instead of being annoyed, smiled and said, Your Majesty knows that I am cautious in my actions and somewhat dull in dealing with matters. So you think of me as a pedantic person. That is about right. I thought you would uphold the legitimacy of the royal power. Gao Shi's expression suddenly darkened. Upholding the legitimacy of royal power. How ironic and laughable. My family has fallen to the point where I have no way to serve the country, not even the opportunity to uphold the legitimacy. Although I haven't served Your Majesty for long, your advocacy for new learning, innovation, and respect for human rights has left me in admiration and shown me a different world. If it were Your Majesty, I believe that a life where the cultivators have their fields, the dwellers have their homes, and the capable can utilize their talents for a prosperous living is achievable. As the ancients said, heaven's mandate is unpredictable. Only the virtuous can hold it. Upon hearing Gao Shi's words, Zhang Xiaochuan admired him, thinking, no wonder he is destined to become a prime minister. His level of thought is indeed different. Suddenly, Gao Shi knelt down, raising his voice. If your majesty does not abandon me, I am willing to serve you to the death, as a vanguard in your ascent to greatness. Zhang Xiaochuan quickly helped Gao Shi up. Let us not mention this matter. I can responsibly tell you that I have no such intentions. Gao Shi nodded knowingly. Yes, I understand. It's not the right time yet. I just hope your majesty understands my intentions. You understand nothing. I truly have no intention of becoming emperor. Forget it. Explaining this would probably be useless. Mo Tianji suddenly knelt down as well. I am willing to serve too. Enough, stop causing trouble. After being reprimanded by Zhang Xiaochuan, Mo Tianji reluctantly got up. Zhang Xiaochuan said to Gao Shi, take me to meet this Biao princess. Has Teng Yi returned? He has returned. He has come back, but doesn't want to see me. He must know he has done something wrong. Uncle Mo, find 2 people to capture Teng Yi and lock him in the dungeon. Mo Tianji helplessly agreed. Chapter 283 Princess Li Shanshan Zhang Xiaochuan arrived at the transformed inn in the villa with Gao Shi and entered one of the villas. In the living room sat 2 young girls, one of whom looked particularly familiar, obviously teaching something to the other unfamiliar girl. Upon seeing Zhang Xiaochuan and his group enter, the 2 immediately stood up to greet them. Bolan, greetings to my husband. Li Shanshan, greetings to the Marquis of Shuzhou. Bolan, truly magnificent and deserving of the name. Oh, by the way, this is Princess Yu Shizhao. The other must be the princess of the Biao kingdom. But what is up with the name Li Shanshan? It sounds very modern. Could it be? Zhang Xiaochuan wiped his drool. No need for formalities. Please sit down. Uncle Mo, brother Gao, you sit too. After everyone sat down, Zhang Xiaochuan continued. This must be the princess of the Biao kingdom. The name is quite distinctive. I wonder who chose it. The Biao kingdom princess evidently had limited proficiency in the language and was struggling to organize her words, but Gao Shi quickly answered. Replying to my lord, it was I who chose this name. Hearing this, Zhang Xiaochuan was somewhat disappointed. What was the significance behind the name you chose? The princess's original name was Ma Sansan. Noticing Zhang Xiaochuan's frown, Gao Shi stopped speaking and cast a questioning look at him. Seeing Gao Shi suddenly halt, Zhang Xiaochuan blurted out, what kind of name is Ma Sansan? Why is it so strange? Gao Shi explained, the Ma in Biao kingdom pronunciation means a young woman. And Sansan also in Biao language means clear water. So, her name can be interpreted as a girl as clear as water. Since this is in the Tang dynasty, I used the pronunciation of the princess's name to form Shanshan. And the royal family of the Biao kingdom is allowed to take a surname from Han names, hence Li Shanshan. Zhang Xiaochuan suddenly understood. Now that you mention it, it makes sense, and the name doesn't sound out of place anymore. It's just a pity I had high expectations for nothing. Hearing Zhang Xiaochuan say he had high expectations, Gao Shi thought he was dissatisfied and quickly asked, I wonder what my lord was expecting. Are you not satisfied with the Biao kingdom princess? Realizing Gao Shi had misunderstood, Zhang Xiaochuan replied, it's nothing. As he spoke, Zhang Xiaochuan carefully examined the Biao kingdom princess. He had no impression of the appearance of modern Myanmar people, but he had paid attention to the looks of Thai people. Although they were of Asian descent, they tended to be darker skinned. However, upon closer observation of the Biao kingdom princess's features, she was completely different from what he had imagined. Zhang Xiaochuan was somewhat mesmerized, thinking, how come she isn't dark at all? She has the beauty of a Jingchu woman, so stunning. What is going on? I can't help but think of you, Ji. Isn't she the Biao kingdom princess? How strange. My lord. The calls brought Zhang Xiaochuan back to reality. He wiped his drool again and asked, oh, what is the matter? Gao Shi said, my lord, are you satisfied with this Biao kingdom princess? Yes, I am satisfied. It's just strange that the princess resembles a Jingchu woman. Shouldn't her complexion be darker with a broad face and thick lips? I never expected that the leader would understand the people of that nation so well. Indeed, many of them have the appearance as the leader described. But that's only half of it. Most of them are commoners, while the royal and noble families generally resemble people from my homeland. Zhang Xiaochuan expressed disbelief, saying, is it really like that? But why? Gao Shi explained, it's not hard to understand. The indigenous people have darker skin, broad faces, and thick lips. However, during the late Warring States period, many nobles began migrating south to escape the turmoil, particularly those from the regions of Bashu and Jingchu, and many settled in that nation, intermarrying with the locals. Over the years, this has led to the appearance we see today, especially the royal family, which often intermarried with people from the Central Plains. Hence their resemblance to our people. I see, but I don't recall any princesses marrying into that nation, Zhang Xiaochuan remarked. There haven't been any princesses. But that nation frequently visits the Central Plains to pay homage and is often rewarded with palace maids. Once these maids arrive in that nation, they become consorts or wives in noble families. Zhang Xiaochuan nodded, saying, that makes sense. I've met some people, but Princess Shanshan should stay here for now. I'll deal with the new ruler of that nation first. Gao Shi exclaimed, the new ruler already has a plan. Exactly. Uncle Mo, has the contact been established? When can we go for negotiations? Mo Tianji replied, we should receive a response tonight, but the earliest we can set off is tomorrow. Zhang Xiaochuan said, all right, got it. I need to visit the dungeon now. Are you coming? Mo Tianji and Gao Shi didn't hesitate and followed Zhang Xiaochuan to the dungeon. On the way, Gao Shi suddenly asked, Chief Mo, I have a question. I wonder if I can. Gao Shi is now an executive at the Great Tang Technology Group, appointed by Zhang Xiaochuan as the director of the project in the northern region of Myanmar. As for why it's not called the northern region of that nation, that's naturally Zhang Xiaochuan's mischievous preference. Mo Tianji responded, feel free to ask, Gao. Then I'll be straightforward. I've noticed that all the males in the Shu Province Park have short hair, and many of the females do too. I can't figure it out. That's right. Zhang Xiaochuan suddenly exclaimed, I thought it felt strange. It turns out it's their hair. Why is everyone sporting short hair now? Gao Shi muttered to himself. Aren't you sporting short hair too? Why are you more shocked than I am? Mo Tianji chuckled. If you hadn't mentioned it, I would have forgotten. Short hair has become popular in the park, and everyone has gotten used to it. The trend actually started with the vow of cutting hair to signify determination. Mo Tianji recounted how Zhang Xiaochuan had initially refused to provide the formula for hair cutting as a commitment, and many people in the village cut their hair to show support for him. After cutting their hair, everyone felt one thing. It was refreshing. Washing hair became incredibly simple, and it didn't take much time to manage. Just a quick comb in the morning was enough. Now that various projects are progressing rapidly in the village, everyone is extremely busy, so short hair has become a lifesaver, saving at least half an hour each day. Thus, more people joined the ranks of those cutting their hair, and even many who are not from the park began to adopt short hairstyles. So now, not only in the Shu Province Park, but having short hair has become quite common throughout the entire Shu Province. Gao Shi frowned and said, although short hair is convenient, it is still a matter of cutting one's hair. He really wanted to say it goes against filial piety, but since Zhang Xiaochuan also has short hair, he didn't say it out loud. Mo Tianji replied, why think so much? As long as you're comfortable, that's what matters. Gao Shi still couldn't wrap his head around it. But the body and hair are received from our parents. We shouldn't harm them. What I'm doing now really goes against the principle of filial piety. Mo Tianji said, you're being pedantic. Don't you cut your nails? Gao Shi was immediately left speechless. Zhang Xiaochuan silently gave Mo Tianji a thumbs up and pretentiously said, Brother Gao, there's a saying I hope you remember. What the people support is what is right. Gao Shi was left bewildered. Chapter 284. You repay kindness with enmity in the Zhang family's armory. Teng Yi was holding the latest sniper rifle, fascinated by the infrared sight on it. Haha, this is great. No need to aim specifically. It's really point and shoot. I want this. You want what? The guard in charge of the armory, Mei Hua, said with disdain, you can enter the armory now, but you can't take anything without Director Mo's or Erlang's written permission. Teng Yi's temper flared, pointing at the armory and saying, Chowda, is it because I haven't been around lately that you've gotten bold? You're lecturing me on rules? Chowda, clearly used to being reprimanded by Teng Yi, said timidly, don't frame me. This is all the orders from the leader. As soon as Teng Yi heard the words the leader, he was immediately silenced, realizing Chowda wasn't joking. However, he couldn't let it go that easily. He had to regain some face. Just then, Wei Laosan arrived. Teng Yi quickly pulled Wei Laosan over and said, Wei Laosan, you're just in time. You tell him, but Wei Laosan completely ignored him and shouted, bind him. Instantly, two people walked out from behind Wei Laosan and restrained Teng Yi. As he shouted and struggled, Teng Yi protested, Wei Laosan, how dare you bind me? Do you believe I won't kill you? Upon resisting, Teng Yi quickly realized something was off. The two restraining him were also from the guard, and their strength was not much lower than his. He became anxious. Wei Laosan, what do you mean? Are you serious? Wei Laosan looked at the tightly bound Teng Yi with amusement. Of course, I'm serious. Otherwise, why would I be playing with you? Let me go quickly, otherwise, if I break free, you won't escape me. Don't threaten me. It's useless. This is Erlang's order for me to bind you. Both Teng Yi and Chowder exclaimed in surprise. Teng Yi was still wondering what he had done wrong, while Chowder had already asked, Wei Laosan, what on earth did he do for Erlang to want to bind him? Is there something big going on? Wei Laosan leaned close to Chowda's ear and said, it's nothing. Don't overthink it. Erlang just wants to tease Teng Yi because he usually does things without following the rules. You know what they say, a reckless person brings trouble. Chowda looked at Teng Yi with disdain and loudly said, yeah, reckless people bring trouble. Wei Laosan, you bastard. Let me out, or I'll crack your head open. As Zhang Xiaochuan and his companions entered the dungeon, they heard Teng Yi shouting. Zhang Xiaochuan, upon entering, scolded Wei Laosan, saying, look at what you've done. Teng Yi mistakenly thought Zhang Xiaochuan was there to support him, so he jumped in, saying, exactly. Wei Laosan, what kind of mess are you making? Shut up. Zhang Xiaochuan coldly interrupted Teng Yi and continued addressing Wei Laosan. Did I not tell you to bring him here and make him suffer a bit first? Look at how loud he is shouting. Full of energy, he doesn't seem like someone who has been through hardship at all. Wei Laosan immediately understood. Come, hang him up for me. I want to practice my whip technique. Teng Yi looked shocked and innocent. Wait, Erlang, what are you doing? You had someone grab me. I haven't done anything wrong. Zhang Xiaochuan angrily replied. You don't know, huh? Then I'll make you know. Wei Laosan, give me the whip. I'll do it myself. Crack, crack. The whip sounded sharply as it hit Teng Yi, but when they looked again, Teng Yi seemed unaffected, which made Zhang Xiaochuan throw down the whip in frustration. Look at him, tough-skinned and strong. It doesn't seem to have any effect. Does anyone have a way to make him uncomfortable? I can agree to one condition. In truth, everyone knew Zhang Xiaochuan hadn't gone all out. The key was that Teng Yi didn't even pretend to be in pain, which made Zhang Xiaochuan very embarrassed. Wei Laosan thought for a moment and smiled, saying, Making him uncomfortable is easy. Erlang, think about it. Why is Tung Yi so arrogant and unmanageable now? You're talking nonsense. Wei Laosan, stop slandering me. Tung Yi immediately protested. Zhang Xiaochuan shot him a glare, and Tung Yi quickly obediently fell silent. Wei Laosan continued. Isn't it because he has so many people under him, expanding territory outside? As you said, Erlang, he has become too inflated. Zhang Xiaochuan nodded. You're right. Keep going. Then remove his position and keep him by your side as a guard. Won't he be unable to act so arrogantly then? Zhang Xiaochuan clapped his hands in delight. Good, this method is great. Upon hearing that his command was about to be revoked, Tung Yi immediately explained, wait, Erlang. Don't listen to his nonsense. When have I been arrogant? I've always acted low-key. Besides, I know the situation in that region best. Switching to someone else might not work. And Erlang, if you want to deal with me, you should at least let me understand why. Fine. Today I'll let you understand. Tell me, what is the deal with the princess of the Six Zhao? Tung Yi suddenly recalled that he had encouraged the king of Yunnan, Pai Luoga, to marry the princess of the Six Zhao, but still desperately defended himself. What princess of the Six Zhao? That was the king of Yunnan acting on his own. What does that have to do with me? And even if it has something to do with me, Erlang, you haven't lost anything. You're just taking advantage and then pretending to be wronged. You're burning the bridge after crossing it. Hearing Tung Yi's words made Zhang Xiaochuan laugh in anger. I'm burning the bridge after crossing it? I'm taking advantage and pretending to be wronged. Alright, Tung Yi, do you think my knife isn't sharp anymore? Zhang Xiaochuan became increasingly furious. And Tung Yi listened with trepidation. Erlang, I was wrong. Please don't do anything reckless. Don't worry, I won't do anything reckless. I still want to repay you. Expanding territory is hard work. Just come back to Chang'an with me and stay in the luxurious mansion in the capital for a while. Tung Yi smiled broadly and said, no need, Erlang, you don't have to be so nice to me. I, with my tough skin and thick flesh, actually prefer the wildlands of that region. Zhang Xiaochuan gritted his teeth and replied, that won't do. It's settled then. Wei Laosan, go call the girls from the flower house to keep General Tung company. If he can get out of bed tomorrow, I'll hold you responsible. Wei Laosan immediately stood tall and assured, I guarantee to complete the task. Rubbing his hands, Wei Laosan continued, Erlang, now that Tung Yi is back, can I go to that region? It's not impossible for you to go. After all, I promised you a condition before, but I will leave him to you. You need to satisfy me. After saying that, he gave a knowing glance, and Wei Laosan expressed that he would not disappoint. He then grinned at Tung Yi, much like a wolf looking at Little Red Riding Hood. As Zhang Xiaochuan and his group left the dungeon, all that could be heard was Tung Yi's wails. Mo Tianji and Gao Shi exchanged glances, both shaking their heads with wry smiles, realizing that their master was truly too mischievous. Chapter 285. Sending you a queen. As dawn broke, at the foot of Wanlong Mountain, a helicopter quietly descended. 3 people stepped out, led by Zhang Xiaochuan. A group of people had evidently been waiting for a long time beside the helicopter. Zhang Xiaochuan looked at the familiar, yet unfamiliar figure in front of him, feeling a mix of emotions and momentarily at a loss. This person was the current queen of Wanlong Mountain, Shangguan Fenglan. Noticing Zhang Xiaochuan's unusual demeanor, she took the initiative to step forward. Thank you all for your efforts. President Mo has taken the others to the assembly hall for a short rest. I have something to discuss with Xiaochuan. Once the others left, Zhang Xiaochuan could no longer suppress the excitement in his heart. He wanted to embrace the beauty, but was jolted back to reality by a sharp elbow from Shangguan Fenglan. Angrily, she said, what are you doing? No manners at all. If you keep being so reckless, you'll ruin your chances. Zhang Xiaochuan felt a bit dejected and murmured, sigh, I was too impulsive. I just want to know, is it really you? Seeing Zhang Xiaochuan's aggrieved expression, Shangguan Fenglan burst into laughter, her smile as enchanting as a flower. Look at you. Yes, it's me. If I said it wasn't, would you cry? Suddenly, Shangguan Fenglan became serious. The past is all in vain. Some things cannot be forced, and one shouldn't be too greedy. You know what your family situation is, right? Zhang Xiaochuan was momentarily speechless, thinking, yes, I've been too greedy. In my past life, I was just a poor loser. And now with many wives and concubines, I'm still lost in thoughts. This is really inappropriate. Perhaps the wealth and power I possess have grown too much, making it increasingly hard to control my desires. I've thought about usurping the emperor more than once. Not only is it disrespectful to imperial authority, but how can I also go against ethics? If this continues, who knows what absurd things I might do? Is this what they call inner demons? Reflecting on this, Zhang Xiaochuan suddenly felt a shiver, realizing he should restrain his inner ambitions. Once he clarified his thoughts, he felt enlightened, his mind becoming exceptionally clear. He then turned to Shangguan Fenglan and said, all right, let us talk about cooperation. Aunt, please. Zhang Xiaochuan's sudden transformation made Shangguan Fenglan feel as if he was glowing, and she momentarily became entranced. When she heard Zhang Xiaochuan call her aunt, she immediately shot him a flirtatious glance and said, call me sister or beauty. Indeed. Pretending to be a saint is just degrading. This woman needs to be taken down, Zhang Xiaochuan thought angrily. In the assembly hall, Zhang Xiaochuan and his group sat opposite Shangguan Fenglan. Shangguan Fenglan spoke first. I see that only 3 of you have come today, so it must not be to seek justice. This matter is entirely my fault, so please do not blame Yaoer. I am willing to take full responsibility. and those supplies can be considered as borrowed from me. Clearly, Shangguan Fenglan misunderstood, thinking that Zhang Xiaochuan had come to recover the lost supplies. Zhang Xiaochuan realized the misunderstanding and said, I didn't come today for those supplies. But since you mentioned it, let me say a few words. We are all family. If you need anything, just say so, and I will arrange for someone to deliver it to you. There's no need to make it so awkward. It shouldn't happen again next time. Well, whether what you say is true or not, it sounds pleasant. But rest assured, our Shangguan family is not a group of petty thieves. This is indeed a temporary measure, and as I said, I will return it to you in due time. Once I have taken this realm, I will definitely compensate you and Yaoer tenfold. Zhang Xiaochuan shook his head. I came today specifically for this matter. You will not be able to take the realm of Li Tang. Shangguan Fenglan reacted somewhat fiercely. What do you mean? Are you saying that you want to take me and you down for Li Tang? I have no such intention. However, I have already offered the artillery manufacturing technology to the court. Therefore, with what you currently possess, it poses no threat to the court. If you persist in your course of action, the outcome is something I need not elaborate on. What? Shangguan Fenglan exclaimed, feeling a wave of dizziness. And she slumped back onto her chair. Foolish. Foolish. Do you know what having these weapons means? How can you just hand them over? Everything is now ruined. It's simply stupid, incredibly foolish. Zhang Xiaochuan explained. It's not as serious as you think. What I have provided are basic weapons. I possess more advanced ones. This can't be made clear in just a few words, so please don't get agitated. Let me finish. Alright, go ahead. In fact, Zhang Xiaochuan's purpose for coming today was to propose that Shangguan Fenglan assume the throne of the new kingdom. The reason for selecting her was that she was Yaoer's mother and thus a close relative. Moreover, the Shangguan family had been entrenched in the court for many years. And Shangguan Fenglan was well-educated and harbored ambitions of rebellion and becoming an emperor, making her the best choice for Zhang Xiaochuan at the moment. Another fundamental reason was that Yaoer felt her status was too lowly and did not qualify to rise above the other princesses to become the main matriarch. Even if Zhang Xiaochuan forcibly tried to make it happen, it would be difficult to gain acceptance, as this was a feudal society. Zhang Xiaochuan might not care, but many others did. Therefore, without status, one must create an identity for oneself. Since it has been mentioned, Zhang Xiaochuan did not beat around the bush and directly explain the situation of the nation and his own plans. Once Zhang Xiaochuan finished speaking, everyone present was shocked. It turned out that the throne could be given directly. Shangguan Fenglan confirmed, Xiaochuan, are you serious? This is not a joke. Before Zhang Xiaochuan could respond, Gao Shi eagerly asked, Your Majesty, although I understand your thoughts, isn't this decision a bit hasty? Hasty was a euphemism. Gao Shi wanted to say it was absurd to simply hand over the throne, especially to a woman. Knowing that this matter needed to be discouraged, he turned his pleading gaze towards Mo Tianji. To his surprise, aside from his initial shock at Zhang Xiaochuan wanting to make Shangguan Fenglan the emperor, Mo Tianji remained calm. After all, they had previously served a female emperor. Zhang Xiaochuan replied, Such a significant matter, I would never joke about it. Besides, I believe there is no better way to restore the glory of the Shangguan family than this. Shangguan Fenglan knew Zhang Xiaochuan was not one to joke around. And after confirming again, she no longer doubted him. With a blooming smile, she said, Little brother, I knew marrying Yao Yao to you was the right choice. I agree to this. Everyone fell silent. Before Zhang Xiaochuan could speak, Shangguan Fenglan continued, Since you are giving me the title of a nation's ruler, I believe there are no free lunches in this world. Let us discuss your terms. I will give you whatever I can. As she spoke, she subtly signaled to Zhang Xiaochuan, who felt exasperated, thinking, This woman knows it's unreasonable but still teases me. Since that is the case, don't blame me. Aunt. Call me sister. You win. Let us talk terms. Shangguan Fenglan looked at Zhang Xiaochuan with a smile. Aren't you the one proposing the terms? All right. Zhang Xiaochuan shot her a glare, feeling a wave of helplessness wash over him. Then let us discuss the terms. I will not interfere with the military and political affairs of the nation, which means you will be the true emperor, not a vassal of my power. Wow, little brother. If you keep this up, I'll retract the military power. Shangguan Fenglan finally became serious. I'm scared of you, so please continue. First is the basic law of the nation. We will use this. Saying that, Zhang Xiaochuan took out a stack of books from his suitcase and placed them on the table, handing one to Shangguan Fenglan while having Gao Shi distribute the others. Shangguan Fenglan had thought she might just be a puppet emperor, but she didn't expect Zhang Xiaochuan to relinquish all military and political power. Initially, she thought he might have ulterior motives and make excessive demands, but realizing she had guessed wrong, she decided to take a laid-back approach, thinking, I'll just listen to whatever you say. Everyone picked up the basic law Zhang Xiaochuan mentioned, and they saw 3 large characters printed in simplified Chinese on the cover. New Code. This book was a legal document drafted by Zhang Xiaochuan based on the civil law, criminal law, and administrative law of the later generations of Huaxia, combined with the Western constitutional monarchy. Zhang Xiaochuan aimed to implement the laws of later generations to create a society based on freedom and equality, which was at least more liberal than the feudal society. However, considering that at this time the supremacy of the monarchy was paramount, Zhang Xiaochuan referenced a constitutional monarchy system where the emperor and parliament jointly govern the realm. Yet, this imposed minimal restrictions on Shangguan Fenglan, the first female emperor, as she would also shape the parliament. At the very least, this represented a significant progress. In an instant, the entire assembly hall was silent, with only the sound of pages turning. Surprisingly, several of Shangguan Fenglan's subordinates were literate and were diligently reviewing the civil code, which made Zhang Xiaochuan look at them in a new light. Zhang Xiaochuan knew that today would take some time, so he did not rush them and allowed them to read. About a quarter of an hour later, Shangguan Fenglan raised her head, clearly having skimmed through the code. Her brows furrowed. How should I put it? This law is somewhat reminiscent of Mosey's thoughts. To write such content is truly remarkable. However, if implemented without the reverence for imperial power, what is the point of me sitting on this throne? Is it merely a title? Zhang Xiaochuan replied. Am I not the emperor? Do you dare not to revere me? Shangguan Fenglan was momentarily speechless, but insisted, I cannot accept that the throne is merely a symbol. How can it be just a symbol? The emperor has legislative power. Is that not enough authority? Moreover, if you wish, the parliament can also be staffed by loyalists of the Shangguan family. With military power in hand, it's merely a division of authority in form. Shangguan Fenglan responded. If that's the case, why complicate things? We might as well use the Tang Code, and besides, the government offices you have here are quite peculiar. At this moment, Gao Shi interjected, I have a different perspective. These offices should be the names of departments. While they may seem novel, if you examine them closely, these names have their origins. They are simply more straightforward and accessible, and the entire code is like this. Its greatest advantage is that it is easier to promote and disseminate. Shangguan Fenglan countered, even if it is easy to disseminate, so what? Throughout history, the supremacy of the monarchy has always prevailed, with emperors and scholars jointly governing the realm. What is the point of promoting equality and freedom now? Other than making governance more difficult? Gao Shi replied, there is indeed significance, and I have experienced it firsthand. Currently, the Zhang family should be referred to as the Tang Technology Group. They operate under rules similar to this code, emphasizing equality, freedom, and justice. Everyone in the group is highly motivated, whether in work or study, and operates with great efficiency. When I witnessed this, I thought to myself, if such rules could be formed into a grander system and applied to a nation, how powerful that nation would be. I never expected that the sovereign had already drafted such a text. Shangguan Fenglan, half convinced, asked, is it really that impressive? Zhang Xiaochuan, somewhat flattered by Gao Shi's praise, replied proudly, absolutely. Shangguan Fenglan said, in that case, I agree, but I have a condition. I need to study this code thoroughly and make some modifications based on my own needs. Zhang Xiaochuan said, as long as the core of the system remains unchanged. Some specific articles can naturally be modified. The content modified in the early stages before the coronation must be approved by me. Once the nation operates smoothly, you can do as you wish, and this period will be set for 3 years. All right, 3 years it is. Let's discuss other conditions. Zhang Xiaochuan continued. The second condition is the concession, and the specific details are all here. Saying this, he took out a stack of documents and personally handed one to Shangguan Fenglan, followed by a rustling sound. The content of this document was the common means of occupation used by foreign powers in later years, land concession terms. After reading it, Shangguan Fenglan had no objections. Although this clause involved the division of a nation's land and sovereignty, the entire territory of the state was given by Zhang Xiaochuan, so it was reasonable to designate a piece of land. Moreover, it specified an area and a time limit. The area was not large, roughly equivalent to a county, but it included a port, and the duration was 30 years. Shangguan Fenglan said, this concession agreement is fine. Is there anything else? Zhang Xiaochuan replied, there is one more thing, but it is not exactly a condition. I believe you don't have many capable people under your command. So I will temporarily ask Gao Shi to serve as your part-time prime minister to help you establish a new court system. You have a good heart. I will leave the people with you, but don't underestimate me. I am not alone. What do you mean by that? Faced with Zhang Xiaochuan's sudden interruption, Shangguan Fenglan was momentarily taken aback. After a moment, she realized he was mocking her as not being capable, and her eyes widened as she retorted, nonsense. I meant I have capable people. Everyone in the Shangguan family is talented in both literature and martial arts. This time, it was Zhang Xiaochuan's turn to be surprised. Are there others in your family? Aren't they all? What do you mean by all? Our Shangguan family has just fallen on hard times. We haven't been exterminated. Besides, such a large family as ours can't just be wiped out at will. That makes sense. Chapter 287. Descendant of the king of Shi to support Shangguan Fenglan in establishing her state. Zhang Xiaochuan stated that he would also provide technical support for the industrial system and more weapons until she fully took control of the territory. Shangguan Fenglan was extremely pleased and naturally expressed her gratitude towards Zhang Xiaochuan, though her way of expressing it made him feel quite uncomfortable, as if there was an overwhelming urge to leap forward. Finally, Gao Shi temporarily stayed at Wanlong Mountain because Shangguan Fenglan wanted to gather her subordinates and the elites of her clan to study the new code. Gao Shi just happened to stay behind to work with them, as Zhang Xiaochuan only gave them 7 days to prepare. After that, he would head to the territory to prepare for the coronation. Zhang Xiaochuan needed Shangguan Fenglan to complete the coronation ceremony within 3 months. While 3 months seemed long, it was indeed too rushed for someone taking over a nation. However, time was what they were lacking, so everyone had no choice but to push forward. Feeling restless because of Shangguan Fenglan, Zhang Xiaochuan returned to the estate to face a group of princesses, stating that he would showcase his prowess tonight. Unfortunately, he was defeated before halftime. As the saying goes, there are only tired oxen, not worn-out fields, especially when it was a whole field. As the sun rose in the east, it was another bright day, and Zhang Xiaochuan was revitalized once again. By the lakeside of the White Pagoda, a school covering thousands of acres has risen, and the inaugural opening ceremony is currently taking place. Zhang Xiaochuan has been forcefully arranged to the podium. He originally did not want to join this event. But considering the importance of teacher-student relationships in today's era and the need to rely on these individuals for future governance, he reluctantly came to the opening ceremony. This ceremony was somewhat rushed. It was initially planned for half a month later, but considering that Zhang Xiaochuan would be back in the capital by then, it was held earlier. Although this is the first ceremony, it is limited to the school's internal attendees and is not particularly grand, nor were external guests invited. Zhang Xiaochuan was also quite excited. He never expected to participate in an opening ceremony from this perspective one day. The entire process is quite similar to those in later years, especially the essential speeches from leaders and student representatives. As someone who had been subjected to countless tedious leader speeches, Zhang Xiaochuan condensed his remarks to the extreme, stepping up to the podium and saying 3 sentences. Dear students, my name is Zhang Xiaochuan, and I am the founder of this school. I hope today you take pride in me, and tomorrow I will take pride in you. Thank you. It was only after Zhang Xiaochuan left the podium that everyone realized it had truly ended, followed by thunderous applause from the leaders on stage. Zhang Xiaochuan felt that this moment was absolutely well executed. He was very satisfied and thought it was perfect. Next was the principal's speech, which was not as succinct as Zhang Xiaochuan's. It was a very comprehensive and lengthy speech. Zhang Xiaochuan then realized he had done something foolish. While he did not burden others with his speech, he would now have to endure someone else's lengthy discourse. Overall, it made Zhang Xiaochuan feel drowsy. By the time he had taken a nap and awakened, it was time for the student representative's speech. This was a teenager, about the same age as Su Changming, with a handsome and refined appearance. Zhang Xiaochuan suddenly felt a sense of familiarity with the student who came up. His voice was crisp, and his enunciation was very clear, sounding as if he had received training. Respected teachers and classmates, my surname is Li, my given name is Renqing. Today Zhang Xiaochuan quietly asked Mo Tianji, what is this Li Renqing's background? What makes him stand out? Seeing Zhang Xiaochuan interested in this student, Mo Tianji replied, Li Renqing is a refugee. His family used to own some farmland and live quite well, but unfortunately, his mother fell seriously ill a few years ago and sold off a lot of the land without being cured. Last year, they suffered a flood and lost everything, forcing him to escape with his father. During the escape, his father drowned while trying to save him, and this boy then joined other refugees, eventually arriving at the village. The village screened his background and found no issues, so he was allowed to stay. He is very intelligent and is a learning-type genius, with an excellent memory for literature. He learns quickly, especially in political and legal subjects, and is very capable in his actions, which is why he is currently the class leader of the gifted class. He has political talent and is a good seedling, but I feel his background is too perfect. Please investigate further and bring him to see me later. Mo Tianji replied, you are right, his background is overly clean. However, I can assure you that he is not someone from the court, but he can be useful, which is why we are keeping him for now. Zhang Xiaochuan nodded and said, that's right. As long as there aren't any obvious issues, let's keep them. We are really short on personnel right now. Anyway, apart from the research on weapons and computers, other leaks aren't a big deal. After the ceremony, in the principal's office, Zhang Xiaochuan sat on the sofa in the reception area, while Li Renqing stood nervously opposite him, speaking in a somewhat inexperienced tone. Student Li Renqing. Greetings to the board member. Zhang Xiaochuan, appearing quite mature, replied, not bad, quite the handsome figure. Unexpectedly, he suddenly turned stern and shouted, how bold of you. Li Renqing, you're not just some peasant fleeing for your life. You better come clean. As soon as Zhang Xiaochuan finished speaking, Li Renqing showed a look of panic. But contrary to what Zhang Xiaochuan expected, he did not kneel to beg for mercy or appear flustered. Instead, he quickly regained his composure. Bowing slightly, he replied, sir, you must have seen through me. However, my identity is indeed difficult to disclose. But I can swear on my ancestors that I came solely to learn skills and find a place to settle down. I have no ill intentions towards you or the school. Zhang Xiaochuan was surprised by how quickly he regained his calm. He seemed to be quite a character. However, he thought to himself that the more someone insisted on a hidden identity, the more he wanted to know. Today, you have no choice. Either speak, or I will have someone force you to. Think about it. After a brief silence, Li Renqing seemed to be contemplating whether to reveal his identity. Soon, he came to a decision. Sir, I am willing to confess, but I have 2 conditions. Go ahead, Zhang Xiaochuan replied. First, I will only share this with you. Second, you cannot disclose it to a third party. Zhang Xiaochuan thought for a moment and said, let me modify your conditions. If you're willing, just say it. That is, you tell me and him, and we won't tell a fourth person. He pointed to Mo Tianji while speaking. Li Renqing agreed without hesitation. All right. In fact, I am a descendant of the Prince of Xi. After revealing his identity, Li Renqing expected Zhang Xiaochuan to be shocked, doubtful, or amazed. However, to his surprise, Zhang Xiaochuan looked completely bewildered and quietly asked Mo Tianji, who is the Prince of Xi? I don't have any impression of him. Mo Tianji was also speechless. Sometimes, Zhang Xiaochuan seemed to know everything, while at other times, he was quite uninformed. It might be that not everyone knows who the Prince of Xi is. But if one mentions the Xuanwu Gate incident and the assassination of Crown Prince Li Jianqing, then surely every male would know. Therefore, It was not surprising that Zhang Xiaochuan was confused. The mention of the prince of Shi hit a knowledge-blind spot. However, even though the information about Li Jiansheng being posthumously honored as the Prince of Shi was somewhat obscure during the Tang dynasty, those who paid attention to the court would know. When Zhang Xiaochuan asked, Mo Tianji could only respond softly. The Prince of Shi is the title posthumously conferred on Crown Prince Li Jiansheng. Though Mo Tianji only said one sentence, Zhang Xiaochuan immediately understood. He then said to Li Renqing, "So you are of royal descent. It is indeed understandable to hide your identity. Although I now know who you are, you need not worry. I not only want to disclose your identity, but I also promise that as long as you stay with our technology company, I will ensure your safety." "Thank you, sir. Since we've confirmed his identity, let's send Li Renqing away." Watching his back, Mo Tianji said to Zhang Xiaochuan, "Do you believe what he said? I'm somewhat skeptical. He seems to have the demeanor of someone raised in royalty. But I don't believe he is a descendant of Li Jianqing. I think the same. Do you have any suspects?" Zhang Xiaochuan replied somewhat impatiently, "No? You can arrange for someone to investigate this." Mo Tianji shook his head helplessly. "I knew it. By the way, besides studying, I'm focused on research. I want to know what your plans are, so I can better cooperate with you." "All right, I'll share my specific plans with you today, and also hear your opinions. First of all, I don't intend to seize the power of the Tang dynasty." "What?" Mo Tianji was immediately unsettled upon hearing that Zhang Xiaochuan had no intention of taking over. Zhang Xiaochuan urged him to stay calm and continued. "The territory of the Tang is too vast, and the population is too large. Managing it would be exhausting. Therefore, I don't plan to take over the Tang. However, I will establish my own kingdom. Once I finish what I need to do in the Tang, I will lead you all to a new land to build a new nation." "A new land? I'm actually looking forward to it. What exactly do you plan to do in the Tang?" "I want to promote the theories and technologies I have in the Tang, while also implementing a new code of laws. The specific approach is to let the court and the emperor experience the benefits of new technologies, so they will support my promotion of new theories and laws." Mo Tianji nodded. "Erlang, I'm not trying to discourage you, but it's easy to let them taste the benefits, yet pushing for new theories and laws is nearly impossible. I suggest you make early plans." Zhang Xiaochuan agreed. "I see that too, but our current strength is still too weak, and we lack capable people. So we need to gather a large number of individuals who understand and support the new theories. During this period, I will try my best to promote the new theories in the court." "You're right. Early planning is necessary. So I need to nurture a spokesperson who can ascend to a high position." Mo Tianji said. "To wield the emperor's authority to command the lords, that's a good idea. Do you have someone in mind?" "The deceased crown prince." Mo Tianji thought for a moment, and then gave a thumbs up. "Brilliant. But I must remind you, this crown prince is not as simple as he appears." "Yes, I understand. What is his current situation? Are you keeping an eye on him?" "I am keeping an eye on him. After learning of his identity, I arranged for someone to monitor him continuously. However, there hasn't been anything particularly unusual. Ever since he got the recipe from you, he has been focused on studying cooking. After the establishment of the elementary school in the Eastern Woman Kingdom, he contracted the school cafeteria and cooks for the students every day. Occasionally, he also studies your new theories. Although he does it secretly, it's evident that he is very interested in your new theories and is studying diligently. He occasionally borrows higher-level books from the teachers we send over." Hearing this, Zhang Xiaochuan was overjoyed. "It's great that he is interested in the new theories. We should give him the green light and provide him with the greatest convenience in this regard. Additionally, I will visit the Eastern Woman Kingdom again in the next couple of days to see him and also meet Yu. When Zhang Xiaochuan mentioned Yang Yuhuan, it was evident that Mo Tianji's expression became strange. Zhang Xiaochuan quickly asked, "What's wrong? Did something happen to Yu?" Mo Tianji hurriedly waved his hand. "No, that's not it. You'll know when you go to the Eastern Woman Kingdom. I really can't say much." "All right, being all mysterious, I have another task to accomplish, which is to push social technology into the internet age. Promoting new learning in the Tang dynasty is also laying the groundwork for this." The internet age seemed to leave Mo Tianji somewhat bewildered. What exactly is this internet? Zhang Xiaochuan had not yet organized the information about the internet, so it was normal for Mo Tianji to be unaware. He patiently explained, "You can think of my phone call with the Shu Prefecture Park as a line. In the future, in Lingnan, Jiangnan, Heshi, and even the entire Tang dynasty, everyone will be able to connect through phone calls. So many lines will form a network. But this is just the most basic telephone network. Once our computer research matures, we will be able to transmit text and images, even real-time interactions. That will be the true internet. When everyone can use this network, that will be the internet age." With Mo Tianji's intellect, he understood right away. But he also thought of another issue. "Erlang, what you're saying is incredible, but I believe it can be achieved. After all, we have already built the most basic computer. However, if you make the phone and even the future network public and let everyone use it, what advantage do we have? Wouldn't we just be making clothes for others?" Zhang Xiaochuan replied, "Of course we have advantages. We can gain wealth that will last for generations. As long as we master the core technology, we will have control and can obtain what we want more easily through the network. But that is still a long way off. For now, we need to manage the schools in the Shu Prefecture Park and several industrial parks in the Tang dynasty well. I estimate that the top 10 wealthy merchants will soon take action against us. This time, I want to teach these complacent clans a big lesson." Mo Tianji said. "Currently, they have collected a large number of vouchers. Previously, the vouchers you had printed have flowed into their hands through the purchase of land and mineral resources. It is conservatively estimated that these wealthy merchants hold at least 30 million vouchers, while we only have 10 million in copper coins and ingots in our treasury. Moreover, once the 9 major wealthy merchants incite the exchange of vouchers for copper coins, a large number of small investors will rush to exchange, and at that time, I'm afraid we won't be able to withstand a wave of runs. Zhang Xiaochuan contemplated for a moment. That's true. However, as long as we can manage the small investors, we should be fine. You execute according to our plan, and it should delay us until we can counterattack. But to be safe, let us borrow all the gold, silver, and copper from the Wei family first. All right, I'll arrange that right away. Zhang Xiaochuan looked into the distance and thought, next, let me see how far the wisdom of the ancients can take us. Chapter 289, No Peace of Mind on Yao'er's side. Knowing that the Shangguan family was about to become part of the royal family of the Piao kingdom and that she would soon become a legitimate princess, her ailments suddenly disappeared. She transformed from her usual shy self, seeking much from Zhang Xiaochuan, which unfortunately took a toll on his back. Zhang Xiaochuan's vacation has not yet ended. Although it is called a vacation, it feels more like a business trip. The influence of Zhang Xiaochuan's advanced technologies and new ideas is particularly significant in Suzhou today. The smooth concrete roads, concrete houses, passing cars, smoke-emitting tractors, towering utility poles, and even the loudspeakers announcing notifications in the park make Zhang Xiaochuan feel as if he has returned to the 1970s and 1980s of a later era. In just a short year, Zhang Xiaochuan believes that the wisdom of the ancients should not be underestimated. They can use the knowledge they provide to advance society into the internet age within their lifetime. Concepts of moral and ethical constraints will crumble under the absolute impact of technology. A new production system will inevitably create a new social system, and with his full support, the end of feudal society will surely come 1,000 years earlier. Bringing his thoughts back, Zhang Xiaochuan boarded the helicopter bound for the Eastern Woman Kingdom. The helicopter landed in the imperial city of the Eastern Woman Kingdom, where someone had already notified Yi Yin'er. As Zhang Xiaochuan stepped off the helicopter, Yi Yin'er arrived with a group of female officials just in time. Yi Yin'er led the officials to pay their respects. Seeing Yi Yin'er kneel to greet him, Zhang Xiaochuan hurriedly stepped forward to assist her. No need for formalities, please rise. I'm just here to take a stroll. There's no need for such ceremony. You accompany me, and the others can disperse. Yi Yin'er formally bowed to Zhang Xiaochuan and said, as you command. She turned to wave her hand to the other female officials. You may all leave. After the crowd dispersed, Zhang Xiaochuan, disregarding any pleasantries, asked directly, why haven't I seen Yunduo? Isn't she in the imperial city? Yi Yin'er smiled and replied, I knew you would be looking for her. However, you won't be able to see her today. The princess has gone to war. War? Who are you fighting against? Zhang Xiaochuan's excitement was driven by the worry of a conflict with a powerful neighboring state. The Eastern Woman Kingdom has quite a few firearms now, and if a war breaks out, it would be a significant disturbance, disrupting his plans. Yi Yin'er seemed to sense Zhang Xiaochuan's concern. No need to worry. It is a war against Tubo. You could say it is a war for restoration. Zhang Xiaochuan felt slightly displeased upon hearing this. So, you mean your side instigated the conflict? Yi Yin'er apologized, saying, it is indeed the Eastern Woman Kingdom that initiated the conflict. I know that you have previously advised us not to rely on firearms to start wars, but the hatred of a destroyed nation cannot be overlooked. Now that we hold powerful weapons, how can I endure this? However, I acknowledge that this goes against your advice, and I hope you will punish me accordingly. Whether it be execution or punishment, I have no complaints. Zhang Xiaochuan sighed. It has come to this. Blaming you is of no use. I wonder how the war is going now. Are the firearms and ammunition still sufficient? If Yunduo is in any danger, I may not be so easy to deal with. Seeing Zhang Xiaochuan's concern for Yunduo, Yi Yin'er felt gratified, but the reality was hard to express. She could only downplay it. The ammunition is still sufficient. According to the latest reports, we have already captured Luoxia City. Zhang Xiaochuan exclaimed, Luoxia City. Isn't that the imperial city of Tubo? You have already destroyed Tubo? Can the mere bullets I provided support your conquest of Luoxia City? Yi Yin'er replied shyly. Well, Director Imo sent a lot of supplies over. Otherwise it would be difficult to sustain the war for restoration. Zhang Xiaochuan felt increasingly uneasy, not to mention the specific number of firearms and ammunition. But it certainly wouldn't be small. With such a large-scale transfer of weapons, how could I be completely unaware? This Uncle Imo is too presumptuous. Arian Air realized that she could no longer hide the truth and had to speak honestly. This matter isn't Director Mo's fault. It was all the idea of the matriarch. Yang Yuhuan. What? Zhang Xiaochuan was completely baffled. How did this get tied to Yang Yuhuan? Hurry up and tell me in detail. This is utterly ridiculous. Arian Air didn't he understand and asked in confusion. What? Zhang Xiaochuan replied irritably. What? It's beyond ridiculous. Quickly explain what is going on. Arian Air then began to explain. It turned out that this situation was similar to Yao Air's. Yang Yuhuan believed she was the second to establish a relationship with Zhang Xiaochuan, and according to logic, if Zhang Xiaochuan favored her, she would be a primary wife. However, if she couldn't become a primary wife, it would be disastrous. As another concubine, those princesses would all have a higher status than her, making her the lowest-ranking concubine, which was unacceptable. Yang Yuhuan was also a modern woman, bold in love and hate, fearless. So she remembered the saying about nobles and their lineage and sought to borrow troops from the queen of the Eastern Woman Kingdom to overthrow the Tubo and establish herself as queen. Arian Air also wanted to fight against Tubo, but unfortunately, the ammunition was insufficient. Yang Yuhuan immediately stated she would handle it herself, leveraging Zhang Xiaochuan's favoritism to demand firearms and ammunition from Mo Tianji. Mo Tianji was someone who enjoyed the excitement and had long wanted to help Zhang Xiaochuan expand his territory. However, Zhang Xiaochuan had never shown any interest in that area. Now that someone was taking the lead, he decided to go along with it since Zhang Xiaochuan would have someone to take the blame if anything went wrong. Then the situation developed where the Eastern Woman Kingdom sought revenge, and Yang Yuhuan only wanted a title. After becoming queen, she would immediately abdicate, with Mo Tianji merely stoking the flames. Thus, the battle for the restoration of the Eastern Woman Kingdom ensued. After hearing all this, Zhang Xiaochuan felt utterly helpless. He was at a loss for how to express his anger. It seemed like no one was truly at fault, but if he didn't say something, he would appear lacking in authority. After holding it in for a long time, Zhang Xiaochuan pointed at Arian Air in anger. You're already an adult. How could you go along with that little girl Yang Yuhuan's antics, and even Xin Yun Duo as well? Unbelievable. One after another, none of you are reliable. Seeing that Zhang Xiaochuan was somewhat angry, but as Mo Tianji had analyzed, with Yang Yuhuan involved, he wouldn't pursue the matter further. Arian Air seized the opportunity to give him a way out, kneeling on the ground and saying, "My lord, this matter is entirely due to my negligence. I know my sins are grievous, and I dare not ask for your forgiveness. I am willing to die to atone." Zhang Xiaochuan saw that Arian Air was giving him a way out and would never truly let her die for this. He waved his hand and said, "Forget it. This is all Yinu's fault. You all know I favor her, so let this matter end here. But after Tubo is defeated, what will you do next?" Arian Air cautiously replied, "Naturally, we will restore the name of our Subai kingdom and support Yang Yuhuan as queen." Zhang Xiaochuan intended to refute her, but considering the current dynasty-valued status, he acquiesced. Little did he know Arian Air continued, "At that time, let Yang Yuhuan abdicate to you, my lord. Not good. Can you let me relax a bit?" Chapter 290. The culinary skills of Liang. No matter what Yi Yenner said, Zhang Xiaochuan had firmly decided not to accept the position of the ruler of the plateau, mainly because he couldn't stand the altitude sickness. Zhang Xiaochuan also noticed that Yun Duo and Yang Yuhuan had gone off to fight, and it was probably impossible to see them. So he asked Yi Yenner to accompany him to the school in the Eastern Women's Kingdom. At this moment, it was mealtime, and as soon as they arrived at the school gate, Zhang Xiaochuan smelled a delicious aroma of dishes and a rich buttery scent. Unable to help himself, he exclaimed, "It seems the food at this school is quite good. Just from this aroma, one can tell." Yi Yenner smiled and replied, "Indeed, not only do the dishes smell good, but they taste even better. Especially the desserts, they are truly my favorite. I feel like I've gained quite a bit of weight recently." "Wait, your majesty. Are you really here to sneak a meal at school?" Zhang Xiaochuan teased, causing Yi Yenner to blush deeply. However, being the queen of a nation and quite experienced, she quickly composed herself and retorted, "Your words are mistaken, my lord. Think about it. Even I want to eat the school's food, which shows how much we value the school you established." Zhang Xiaochuan was taken aback for a moment, realizing this could be put that way. Being a carefree person, he immediately admitted his mistake, saying, "You're right, I misspoke. Please don't blame yourself. After all, the food here is indeed delicious. Why don't we try it together?" "That sounds great." They arrived at the cafeteria, which was still empty, indicating that the meal hadn't started yet. Upon entering, they saw someone at the serving window gesturing and directing, while others were busy preparing items. The person at the window was Liang, who merely smiled and nodded at the Eastern Queen and Zhang Xiaochuan, then continued with his work. At that moment, a servant came over to lead the Eastern Queen and Zhang Xiaochuan to a private room. The Eastern Queen seemed accustomed to this and informed Zhang Xiaochuan that they would eat first, and Liang would come to see them once he was finished. Once seated, the Eastern Queen and Zhang Xiaochuan sat at separate tables. Soon, a servant brought out the meals. Zhang Xiaochuan looked at the two dishes, one soup, one bread, and one dessert, and thought to himself, "Wow, this is quite extravagant." The dishes were braised beef brisket with radish and stir-fried beef strips. This was definitely not the kind of meal found in modern canteens, where radish and green peppers dominated. Here, radish was just a garnish, while the stir-fried beef was pure meat. Everyone knows that in ancient times, beef was an important production tool, and only in certain regions could meat be treated as a side dish. Even high-ranking officials in the Tang dynasty would rarely get to eat such meals. The soup was a milky white beef bone soup, sprinkled with some wild garlic leaves. The bread was a roasted barley cake, and the dessert was a cake cup. Though this cake cup was placed on a plate, Zhang Xiaochuan was not polite and picked up his chopsticks to taste. The braised beef brisket was tender and flavorful, filling his mouth with the rich taste of beef. Without modern technology, the dish retained its original flavor, which was incredibly fragrant. Zhang Xiaochuan even detected a unique taste that enhanced the beef's aroma. The stir-fried beef strips were particularly tender, indicating that the cooking time was perfectly controlled, and the key ingredients were exceptionally fresh. The remaining soup and bread were also quite commendable, pairing excellently with the beef, which made Zhang Xiaochuan nod in approval. As Zhang Xiaochuan and Yi Yenner were almost done eating, the outside began to get noisy, clearly indicating that students had come for their meals. At that moment, Liang also entered, and Zhang Xiaochuan, somewhat puzzled, asked, "Why did you come back when it's mealtime?" "I'm the chef, responsible for preparing the food. What happens afterward is not my concern," Liang replied. That's true. Your cooking skills have improved remarkably. In just over half a year. The dishes you've prepared are of top quality and even innovative. The way you cook this beef has an entirely unique flavor that I've never tasted before. It's quite special. Li Ying humbly responded, this is thanks to you. You're saying that everyone has a chef in their heart is really wonderful. So, I've been thinking of adapting to local conditions and incorporating unique ingredients from this area into the dishes. What you are tasting is likely the flavor of saffron. Zhang Xiaochuan nodded and continued, I didn't expect you to have such a talent for cooking. However, culinary skills are ultimately a minor path. Li Ying shook his head. If there is no path at all, what is the difference between a major and minor path? Cooking here for a lifetime can be quite good. Is that so? Just as Zhang Xiaochuan was about to continue, he suddenly remembered that Yener was still present. He glanced at her, and Yener immediately understood, saying she had something to attend to, quickly apologizing and leaving with her attendant. Zhang Xiaochuan gestured for Li Ying to sit down and chat. Once Li Ying was seated, Zhang Xiaochuan continued, but why do I feel that your words are filled with reluctance? Li Ying defended, I was just speaking without thinking. Since I spared my life, allowing me to live out my remaining days here, how could I still dare to hope for more? You're lying. Zhang Xiaochuan suddenly spoke sharply. Although I don't know how you escaped, it certainly wasn't he because someone felt pity and let you go. Upon hearing Zhang Xiaochuan's words, Li Ying visibly trembled, and his expression turned panicked, but he quickly regained his composure and continued to argue. That's just your speculation. You're mistaken, this is not speculation. I have already confirmed this from the capital, so your survival is quite unusual. Now Li Ying was truly alarmed. Who exactly are you? What is your purpose in coming to find me? If you want my life, just take it. Zhang Xiaochuan waved his hand, indicating Li Ying to sit down. Don't worry, if I wanted to harm you, I wouldn't have waited until now. As for why I came here, I already told you during our first meeting. Li Ying had been thrown off balance when Zhang Xiaochuan exposed the secret earlier, but he had now calmed down and joked, you're like that saying, acting out of anger for a beautiful face, then defeating 100 with 4,000, and those people all became your underlings. Zhang Xiaochuan cooperated exactly. Li Ying became serious. Let us talk about business. You're not here just to scare me. Zhang Xiaochuan stopped beating around the bush. I want to promote new learning and new policies throughout the Tang dynasty. Li Ying responded, I've looked into your new learning. It's quite an impressive theory. However, it focuses too much on the study of things, which goes against the current Confucianism. Implementing it would likely be extremely difficult. Zhang Xiaochuan couldn't help but give a thumbs up to Li Ying in his heart. Truly worthy of being the former crown prince, his knowledge and vision are top-notch. He then heard Li Ying continue, but why are you looking for me to promote new learning? I really can't think of how I can help you. Right now, you might not be able to help, but what if you could return to the capital and ascend to the throne? What? Li Ying suddenly stood up, genuinely shocked this time. Chapter 291. The misfortunes of the Tibetan rulers. Li Ying seemed to have lost his mind all of a sudden, pacing back and forth and murmuring to himself, is this real? Is it not? Trust him? No. Refuse him? No. Zhang Xiaochuan's words had struck at Li Ying's vital point, revealing the deepest ambitions of his soul. Most importantly, Zhang Xiaochuan really could make it happen. With the firearms he possessed, the million cavalry of the Tang dynasty would be no different from paper. Thus, Li Ying became momentarily dazed. Zhang Xiaochuan didn't dare to call out to him, fearing that the sudden awakening might drive Li Ying completely mad. After a while, Li Ying suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and collapsed to the ground. Zhang Xiaochuan hurried over to check, thinking, he can't be dead, can he? What is going on? He doesn't seem like someone with such poor mental resilience. I should have said it more gently. He felt Li Ying's breath. Fortunately, he's still breathing. It seems he just fainted. I should call someone to carry him back and find a doctor. Just as he was about to get up, Li Ying's eyes slowly opened, indicating he was awake. Zhang Xiaochuan helped Li Ying back to his seat, but Li Ying removed Zhang Xiaochuan's supporting hand, signaling that he was fine. Li Ying said, Sigh, I originally thought I would never covet the throne again, but who knew a single sentence from you would captivate my mind? I feel ashamed. Zhang Xiaochuan replied, actually, I can understand you. Perhaps you are not so attached to power. Just like you said when we first met. You have spent the first half of your life preparing for this, and suddenly it all became futile. Who could accept that? That position is a nightmare for you, which is why you reacted so strongly. However, I believe that after this, you should be able to face this matter better. You are right, and I owe you for this. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to confront my inner self. Thus I have gained a new lease on life. Your kindness is like a rebirth to me. Please allow me to bow to you. Saying this, Li Ying bowed to Zhang Xiaochuan. Zhang Xiaochuan was caught off guard and had to accept it, then help Li Ying up. Li Ying continued, since we have already opened up, why don't you tell me your plan, brother Zhang? You want to know the plan? Zhang Xiaochuan's expression turned strange. Why are we suddenly talking about plans? What plans could there be? Am I supposed to tell him I'm just a backup, or a subpar one? I'm just here to wake you up. Forget it. I'll make something up. I did that often when reporting in my previous life. Seeing Zhang Xiaochuan's evasive words, Li Ying felt something was off. Before he could press further, Zhang Xiaochuan said, the plan is that I need you to implement new learning and new laws after you ascend. But you're not very familiar with these matters right now. So first, you need to grasp the knowledge in this area. Secondly, although my military strength is currently insufficient due to limited personnel, making it challenging to control such a vast territory, there are also very few people who can learn the new teachings and new laws. Therefore, I need some time to build up strength. I will arrange for someone to guide you in learning the new teachings, and when the time is right, I will organize personnel to restore order. Li Ying listened to Zhang Xiaochuan's words and believed them wholeheartedly. At the same time, he understood that this might be Zhang Xiaochuan's test for him. If he couldn't learn or accept the new teachings, Zhang Xiaochuan would certainly not support him to rise to power. He replied, Zhang Xiandi makes a valid point. I will arrange to hand over the cafeteria to others and then focus on my studies, waiting for your good news. If I can return one day, I will certainly govern the world together with you. With Li Ying's response, Zhang Xiaochuan's mission was considered accomplished. Moreover, he discovered a tremendous secret during this visit. Next, he planned to return to Shu Prefecture to spend time with his wives before heading back to the capital. Meanwhile, Dezha Gonglu had been defeated in Shanzhou and fled back to the plateau with thousands of exhausted soldiers. One day, they reached the shores of Jialing Lake. Seeing the weary soldiers behind him, and knowing they had already ascended to the plateau, he believed the enemy would not pursue them any further. He decided to set up camp and rest here. Late at night, apart from a few soldiers on watch, the camp was filled with the sounds of snoring. Although it was called a military camp, it was more like a refugee camp, with all the tents in tatters and not a single complete flag in sight. Only Dezha Gonglu was unable to sleep. He was tired but even more confused, so tired that he couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he would hear the thunderous sounds of explosions. This was not his first battle against the enemy, nor his first defeat, but he had never experienced such a devastating and inexplicable loss as this. For a moment, Dezha Gonglu even began to doubt his beliefs. Otherwise, how could he explain the enemy's troops as powerful as celestial beings? He couldn't fathom how they could be so strong. At that moment, the sentry suddenly signaled an enemy alert, followed by the sound of galloping hooves growing closer. The camp was thrown into chaos. Dezha Gonglu felt anxious but helpless. Just as he was about to make an order, he suddenly realized, everyone, don't panic. The sound is coming from the direction of Tongtian River. It should be the troops sent by Zampa to assist us. Dezha Gonglu's shout had an unexpectedly good effect. The camp immediately quieted down and then began to assemble in an orderly manner. Soon, Dezha Gonglu's guess was confirmed, but only partially. Indeed, the troops that arrived were from the enemy, but they were not reinforcements. They were another group of defeated soldiers. When Dezha Gonglu saw their tattered uniforms and broken flags, his heart sank. To his surprise, the leader was the young prince, Qisong Dezang. He hurriedly stepped forward and said, I pay my respects to the prince. Why are you in such a sorry state? Unexpectedly, Qisong Dezang did not answer but instead asked, General Dezha Gonglu, why are you in such a sorry state? The two asked each other and looked at one another's expressions. Although they did not know exactly what had happened, they felt like defeated dogs, sharing a sense of connection in their misfortune. They embraced and wept, letting out a mixed sigh. Alas, after a round of lamentation, Dezha Gonglu was the first to kneel and plead for forgiveness. Please punish me, Your Highness. It is the fault of this unworthy servant. The battle in Shanzhou resulted in heavy losses, with barely 1 in 10 of our troops remaining. What? Qisong Dezang shouted with wide eyes. How could it be so disastrous? Did the empire mobilize all its forces to Shanzhou? Dezha Gonglu felt a bit embarrassed and replied, no. Just over 100,000 from the Hushi army and the defeated soldiers from Shanzhou, totaling only about 150,000 troops. What? Qisong Dezang's voice grew even louder in disbelief. How could this be? Even if. He wanted to say that even if they stood there and let the enemy attack, the losses shouldn't be this severe. However, recalling his own defeats in the royal city, he thought of a possibility and blurted out, unexpectedly echoing Dezha Gonglu, the power of the gods. Alas, the two embraced and wept again. Chapter 292. 2 Letters of State. Although Dezha Gonglu suspected that Qisong Dezang had encountered a situation similar to his own, he still asked, what about those iron crossbows that make a crackling sound, with long range, fast-firing speed, and great power? Qisong Dezang nodded. Yes, yes. And stone-throwing machines with iron tubes as thick as bronze pillars, small projectiles that travel fast and far, landing with a thunderous noise, leaving the ground barren for several zhang? Yes, yes. And the huge iron birds that can fly in the sky? Yes, yes. Alas, the two embraced and wept once more. Dezha Gonglu, being seasoned in battle, quickly regained his composure despite feeling defeated. I wonder how the Zampu is faring? The Zampu is bringing supplies and troops from behind. I came as the vanguard to seek reinforcements from you. After saying this, Qisong Dezang realized it was a painful remark, so he quickly added, I didn't expect your remaining forces to be even fewer. Let us just pretend I never said that. Dezha Gonglu felt a surge of hurt. You've already said it. And you've said it twice. He quickly interrupted Qisong Dezang, who was about to clarify. All right, no need to explain. How many troops does the Zampo have now? Qisong Dezang replied. The total number is about 50,000, with 70% being combat ready. Alas, Dezha Gonglu felt that he had never sighed as much as today, from 1 million combat troops. Now there are only over 30,000 remaining. But it is what it is. We definitely cannot return to the royal city, and this place is no longer safe. I intend to regroup and head west. The enemy's divine soldiers should have just been produced. It's likely that the western troops haven't arrived yet. Heading west is our only way out. Qisong Dezang said. What the general says is very true, but our current forces are still too few. That is no problem. The nearby area is the territory of the Baiano tribe. Tomorrow, we will split into 2 groups. I will go to the Baiano tribe to gather troops. And you will go to meet the Zampu and inform him of my plan. We will regroup here before heading west. Qisong Dazang had no objections, and after their discussion, they set off at dawn. Everything proceeded smoothly, as if the gods of the plateau had begun to favor the Tubo people once again. By evening, they had both completed their planned tasks and met again by the shores of Jialing Lake. In the Bayan tribe, Daza Gonglu mobilized 50,000 people, essentially depleting the tribe completely. After the various forces converged, there were unexpectedly 100,000 troops, which gave Daza Gonglu a sense of confidence. Just as he was preparing to gather his generals to meet the leader and head west, an unexpected event occurred. A rumbling sound approached, growing louder, indicating something was coming at high speed. 12 helicopters flew across the sky, with 2 large transport helicopters and 10 helicopters quickly dispersing to form a surrounding circle. Although there were only 10 helicopters against 100,000 troops, the sense of pressure was overwhelming. The troops were already petrified. Those who had seen helicopters before had lost all will to resist, feeling that a bullet would strike them at any moment. Those who had never seen helicopters were terrified by the unknown, paralyzed by the sight of such enormous metal birds, feeling like they were facing monsters. The 2 transport helicopters landed at the southern and northern road entrances, and over 200 oddly equipped individuals emerged from each, wielding long iron rods that resembled weapons. Their dark openings seeming to gaze like death itself. This was not a plane, with the roads to the north and south controlled. The escape routes for the troops were effectively cut off. The choice before the troops was difficult. A desperate breakout would lead to heavy losses, and heading to the western regions would not secure any territory. Surrendering would mean everything was over. Daza Gonglu said to the leader, let me take people to cover your escape. Even if it costs my life, I must preserve the flame of our people. The leader, feeling disheartened, pointed to the sky and said, can you outrun those iron birds? Forget it. Order the entire army to lay down their weapons and surrender. It was a pity that after all these years of hard work to stabilize internal conflicts, just when they were thriving, such a disastrous defeat had occurred. Tears of unwillingness streamed down his face. Daza Gonglu understood that although this was humiliating, it might be the wisest choice, and the leader had already made up his mind. He immediately issued the order for everyone to lay down their weapons and kneel on the ground. Thus, the final battle for the demise of the Tibetan kingdom ended without any conflict, with no one harmed. In the Chang'an imperial study, 2 diplomatic letters were placed on the desk of Emperor Li Longji of the Tang dynasty. The contents of the letters were quite absurd, indeed, childish. The first letter stated that the flourishing Tibetan leader announced his abdication, but the successor was not his son, but an unknown woman named Yang Taizhen, titled Queen Taizhen. This letter was issued in the name of Queen Taizhen, expressing a willingness to maintain good diplomatic relations with the Tang dynasty. As if the first letter was not strange enough, the second letter was even more ridiculous. It stated that the new queen, Yang Taizhen, abdicated in favor of a minor king from the Eastern Women's Kingdom named Zhao Yifu. After his succession, he changed the country's name to Su Bai and honored Yang Taizhen as the supreme queen. The second letter was naturally issued in the name of Zhao Yifu of the Su Bai kingdom. Li Longji looked at the 2 official documents and felt a headache coming on. What was this? It was simply too childish. If it weren't for the great seal of the neighboring kingdom on them, Li Longji would really think this was some sort of prank. At this moment, the central ministers who were summoned also arrived. Without wasting any words, Li Longji had Gao Lisher read the 2 documents aloud. Silence fell in the entire imperial study. One could hear a pin drop. The ministers were all eager to express their frustrations. Fortunately, it was now. Had it been during the reign of a previous emperor, such an incident would have sparked immediate outrage. What was this? These were official documents, and one would not even dare to write such nonsense in a story. The neighboring kingdom had changed rulers twice in one day, and even changed its name. What kind of joke was this? Seeing their expressions, Li Longji felt a sense of relief. Just a moment ago, he felt like he had a thorn in his throat, but now he found amusement in the constipated expressions of the crowd. Indeed, happiness often comes from the suffering of others. The emperor remained silent, and so did the ministers. Everyone tacitly maintained their silence. However, remaining silent for too long was not an option. As the head of the officials, Li Linfu had no choice but to break the silence awkwardly. Your Majesty, this. Li Longji interrupted. This is the document from the neighboring kingdom. This is indeed an official document. This matter is quite puzzling and childish, right? Your Majesty is absolutely right. Li Longji felt his earlier frustration dissipate, and his wits returned, so he said, all right. Tell me your thoughts on this matter. Chapter 293. Your Majesty, listen to my fabrication. If one were to say that the document from the neighboring kingdom was incorrect, it should now be a document from the Su Bai kingdom. Li Linfu's biggest opinion was that it was absurd. Wasn't it said that the neighboring kingdom's rulers were united and strong in their power? And just a few months ago, they had sent a large army to invade. How could they suddenly abdicate, especially to the former Su Bai? However, since the emperor had asked, he had to provide some constructive opinions. Li Linfu's mind raced, replying to Your Majesty, due to the vast and sparsely populated plateau and the mountains everywhere, information transmission is particularly difficult. I am asking for your thoughts on this matter. Why are you saying this? Replying to Your Majesty, I meant to say that we have not yet received any reports back from our spies in the neighboring kingdom, so I dare not make rash statements. Due to cultural and geographical reasons, it was indeed difficult for the neighboring kingdom to transmit messages. and there were significant differences between the plateau people and those from the Central Plains. Spies faced great difficulties in infiltration, with only a small fraction succeeding. Even if they were fortunate enough to succeed, they often ended up as slaves, with their actions severely restricted. Gathering intelligence was difficult, let alone transmitting information. Therefore, the information that the Tang dynasty collected about the neighboring kingdom mostly came from merchants. One could imagine how much credibility merchant information could have. Li Linfu brought this up to give the emperor a warning. The next statements would be based on limited information and fabricated analysis. Li Longji was somewhat displeased. How could I not know that investigating the neighboring kingdom is difficult? I am asking for your opinion. Li Linfu remained calm and composed, presenting an understanding demeanor as he continued. I believe this seemingly absurd official document must have a reasonable explanation behind it, and the matters involved are undoubtedly very significant. Li Longji nodded. Indeed, continue. Li Linfu saw an opportunity and began to elaborate. I believe that all events are interconnected, and the change of leadership in the region must have been planned for a long time. The previous kingdom had once occupied a significant portion of the plateau, with a population exceeding 1 million. Unfortunately, internal turmoil allowed the neighboring power to take advantage and seize the throne. After the fall of that kingdom, its remnants established a new state, becoming a vassal. However, their desire to restore their former glory remained, yet the neighboring power has always been strong, leaving the new state to bide its time. As Li Linfu spoke, he felt as though he was uncovering the truth, so he paused to gather his thoughts. Seeing this, the emperor urged him to continue. Li Linfu went on. During the reign of the previous leader, the region faced continuous internal strife, only stabilizing in recent years, which has allowed it to grow stronger and become ambitious towards our great empire. They even divided their forces into 2 routes with over 500,000 troops, only to be completely defeated, especially in the battle at a certain region, where they almost lost their entire army. As a result, the neighboring power found itself weakened, and the new state took advantage of this to reclaim its former glory. Li Linfu's analysis was compelling, and the emperor listened intently, ultimately agreeing. Indeed, what you say aligns with my own thoughts, and it must be close to the truth. Encouraged by the emperor's approval, Li Linfu expanded his thoughts. Moreover, judging by the content of the new kingdom's letters, they wish to establish friendly relations with us. I congratulate your majesty, for the neighboring power will likely be unable to threaten our borders for at least 20 years. After all, due to internal and external conflicts, their strength has been greatly diminished. It is a pity that the plateau is barren, unsuitable for settlement or agriculture. Otherwise, we could take this opportunity to advance on certain cities. Li Linfu quickly flattered the emperor. Your majesty is wise. Otherwise, why would the neighboring power always want to descend from the plateau to invade our fertile lands? It is indeed because our empire is vast and rich. The emperor then shifted the topic. I have another question. Why did the recent transfer of power involve someone named Zhao Yifu, who seems to be a minor prince of the new state? I recall this name, but who is Yang Taizhen? Yang Taizhen naturally referred to Yang Yuhuan. Zhang Xiaochuan feared that Yang Yuhuan would claim the throne in the neighboring power, which could disrupt his own plans. So he informed her to use this historical title that was originally hers. In fact, both letters to the new state were drafted by Zhang Xiaochuan himself. The more absurd the situation seemed, the less likely others were to investigate, allowing them to fill in the gaps with their imaginations. This was indeed the case, as the emperor and his key ministers were doing just that. In his mind, Li Linfu cursed Yang Taizhen's ancestors. Who is this? I've never heard this name before. What should I do now? Forget it, I'll just keep improvising. Li Linfu replied, Your Majesty, let me analyze this for you. He silently praised himself for almost revealing the truth. After calming himself, he continued, The surname Yang is quite common, so it's not surprising. The name Taizhen does resemble a title often used in spiritual contexts, which leads me to believe that Yang Taizhen might be a practitioner of such ways. Coupled with the recent transfer of power, this makes sense. The new state likely received blessings or guidance from Yang Taizhen, resulting in their decision to honor her with a symbolic title, reflecting their respect. If Zhang Xiaochuan were here, he would definitely say, You really are a genius. Managing to guess it almost perfectly, Li Longji was also quite satisfied with the analysis results, nodding and saying, Li Qing makes a good point. Let's end today's discussion here. The Ministry of State should draft a letter to Queen Zoifu of the Subai Kingdom, along with some gifts, to congratulate her on her ascension. Li Linfu quickly agreed. Zhang Xiaochuan, who had just returned to Chang'an, was still troubled, calculating that the letter from Subai should have already arrived in Chang'an by now. He wondered how much chaos the news of the fall of Tubo would cause, and was unaware that those with ulterior motives would inevitably expose the large number of firearms that appeared during the Subai Restoration War. Little did he know, the letter he planned was surprisingly effective. The officials of the Tang dynasty were focused on the peculiar situation of a kingdom changing hands in a single day and even concocted a reasonable explanation for it, completely neglecting to investigate how it had come about. Zhang Xiaochuan was also worried that the officials of the Tang dynasty would set their sights on the plateau land, and what would happen if they decided to launch an attack due to the change in leadership. However, it turned out that the officials of the Tang dynasty were not interested in that piece of land at all. After confirming that the letter had reached Li Longji's desk, Zhang Xiaochuan waited for the storm to come, but 2 days passed with no movement. Except for a letter acknowledging the establishment of Subai and offering congratulations, there was no activity in the court. To be safe, Zhang Xiaochuan arranged for people to intercept scouts at the border between Su Bai and the Tang dynasty, blocking all information related to the Tubo civil war. A few more days passed with still no news, so Zhang Xiaochuan decided to have someone keep an eye on the situation, knowing that he could no longer control what would happen next. In any case, he would face whatever came his way. The next priority was to prepare for the activation of the circuit, but before that, Zhang Xiaochuan had something even more important to do. Chapter 294. Surgeon Sun Ji. Zhang Xiaochuan brought some local specialties from Shu and modern medical books to find Sun Ji at the Imperial Medical Office. However, once he entered, he found most of the people inside were whispering to each other with strange expressions, as if they were secretly discussing something. Zhang Xiaochuan's curiosity was piqued, and he wanted to get closer to listen, but as soon as he approached, they dispersed. With no choice, Zhang Xiaochuan had to suppress his curiosity and headed straight for Sun Ji's independent consultation room. To his surprise, there was actually someone standing guard at the door. Upon seeing Zhang Xiaochuan, the guard told him to wait outside, only allowing him to enter after he had informed Sun Ji. Once inside, Zhang Xiaochuan heard Sun Ji's voice. Marquis of Shu, I'm in here. If you want to come in, be mentally prepared. It might be a bit terrifying in here. If you're afraid, you can wait outside. I'll be out in half a stick of incense. A doctor mentioning that what he was doing was terrifying likely indicated that the patient's condition was gruesome. Zhang Xiaochuan was generally on the timid side and couldn't bear to look at bloody injuries. But considering the purpose of his visit today, he decided to go in and see what was happening. So he replied, it's fine, I'll come in and take a look. With that, Zhang Xiaochuan stepped into the inner room, and upon entering, he was greeted by a screen that did not depict mountains, flowers, or beautiful ladies, but rather a set of anatomical diagrams showing various human vascular systems. Zhang Xiaochuan silently complained, as expected of a family of medical practitioners, this style is truly bizarre. Upon closer inspection, it turned out that this was not a common acupuncture meridian chart, but rather a diagram of the human vascular system. Wow. They already have blood system diagrams in this era. But this Sun Ji doesn't seem like a time traveler. Could it be leaked from a certain region? Seeing Zhang Xiaochuan stop in front of the screen, Sun Ji said, is it that you've never seen such a vascular diagram? This is not a meridian. It's a blood vessel. Zhang Xiaochuan walked in and continued, I just didn't expect that there would be a vascular system diagram in your office. So I was curious and took a closer look. Now it was Sun Ji's turn to be surprised. I didn't expect the lord from that region to actually know about this diagram. Zhang Xiaochuan, momentarily stunned by the scene before him, exclaimed, what the hell? Is this horror? This is just sickening. No way, I can't handle this. I'm going outside to wait for you. Before Sun Ji could respond, Zhang Xiaochuan had already rushed out, feeling nauseous at the memory of what he had just seen. A goat was fixed upside down on a workbench, its belly was cut open, and its intestines were spilling out. Sun Ji was stuffing something into the goat's abdomen. And the worst part was that the goat was still alive, writhing continuously. The scene was too much for Zhang Xiaochuan, and he couldn't hold back his nausea any longer. He quickly dashed outside and gagged over a flower bed until a breeze helped ease his discomfort. At that moment, a guard kindly handed him a cup of water, and Zhang Xiaochuan thanked him. Seeing the guard's nonchalant expression reminded Zhang Xiaochuan of the hushed conversation they had when he first entered, likely related to what Sun Ji was doing. After about half an hour, Zhang Xiaochuan returned to Sun Ji's office, and indeed, Sun Ji had come out and was sitting in the hall, drinking tea. It seemed that the earlier activity had taken quite a toll on him. Zhang Xiaochuan said with annoyance, I say, Sun Ji, even if you're practicing anatomy, you shouldn't be using a live goat as your subject. That's just brutal. It's downright perverse. Sun Ji wasn't very angry. Instead, he explained calmly, I wasn't practicing anatomy. That was a goat with complications during birth, and I was performing a cesarean section. Cesarean section, Zhang Xiaochuan exclaimed. Impressive, you can actually perform a cesarean section. Have you done it on a person? Sun Ji shook his head, looking somewhat dejected. No. Zhang Xiaochuan pressed, why not? Is it because your skills aren't refined enough? Sun Ji shook his head again. Actually, I've mastered the technique for cesarean sections long ago. But, Sai, why am I telling you this? Did you come to see me for something today? Seeing that Sun Ji was unwilling to continue, Zhang Xiaochuan realized he felt it was pointless to share with him. However, Zhang Xiaochuan needed Sun Ji to be interested in surgery. So he said, I came to speak with you precisely about what you mentioned earlier. Why don't you finish what you started, and then I'll tell you the specific matter. Sun Ji, rarely encountering someone who didn't think he was crazy for discussing this topic, dropped his pretense and continued. The biggest issue with the cesarean technique is that it has a very high mortality rate. Based on my results with the goat, it's almost certain that 1 in 10 survives. Zhang Xiaochuan was astonished in his heart, thinking, such a high mortality rate, reaching as high as 90%. He interrupted Sun Ji and asked, how can the survival rate be so low? Sun Ji was unsure about the survival rate, but he guessed it was quite low, so it couldn't be used on patients for the time being. Based on the notes left by his grandfather and his own conclusions, he identified 2 main reasons. The first was excessive blood loss leading to immediate death. The second was the invasion of external pathogens, which could result in fever that usually couldn't last more than 3 days. If one could survive until the fever subsided, their life would be considered saved. But that was extremely difficult, making this technique not particularly meaningful. Zhang Xiaochuan couldn't help but admire the genius of this reasoning. Both points were indeed critical. This was challenging for people in ancient times, but it was relatively simple for Zhang Xiaochuan, as he already had refrigeration and sterilization technologies, which could ensure safe blood transfusions. Additionally, he could synthesize necessary medications for treating bacterial infections, and sterile operating rooms could significantly reduce the risk of infection. What he lacked now were experts like Sun Ji, who were familiar with human anatomy, had rich experience in dissection, and had practical surgical experience. Zhang Xiaochuan felt the time had come. So he made his intentions clear. I can solve both of these issues, even better than you might expect. What? You can solve them? This is no joke. Sun Ji replied, surprised. Don't worry, I wouldn't joke about such matters. Why don't you hear my terms? If you can't agree, I won't share my solutions with you. Zhang Xiaochuan said. Sun Ji was not concerned about terms at this moment. This matter was too important to him. It was almost a matter of faith for him. As the saying goes, to hear the truth in the morning is worth dying in the evening. He was even willing to risk his life. Just say it. As long as you can truly solve this problem, I can agree to any terms. What are your conditions? Zhang Xiaochuan replied. My condition is your freedom for 10 years. During this period, you must serve me and resign from all official positions in the court. Without hesitation, Sun Ji responded, I can agree. But how do I know you are not deceiving me? Zhang Xiaochuan handed over several books he had brought. These are the new medical techniques you want to learn. Everything written in these books, I can basically achieve, but it would be inconvenient to demonstrate if you don't agree. The choice is yours. Chapter 295. Illuminating the Great Tang. Sun Ji took the medical books that Zhang Xiaochuan handed him. These were summaries of Western medicine written by Zhang Xiaochuan. The more he read, the more astonished he became. This new medical technique perfectly compensated for the slow efficacy of traditional medicine, especially since surgeries could be performed directly on the affected areas, followed by post-operative care, which could cure many previously deemed incurable diseases. Sun Ji was so absorbed in reading that he completely forgot about Zhang Xiaochuan, who was not in a hurry and quietly waited by the side. Finally, after an hour, when Zhang Xiaochuan was deeply asleep, Sun Ji regained his senses, his eyes filled with both excitement and confusion. Sun Ji forcefully patted Zhang Xiaochuan, waking him from his nap. Zhang Xiaochuan, filled with resentment at being disturbed, thought about how this was the medical genius he had invited, so he endured it. Sun Ji was completely oblivious to Zhang Xiaochuan's emotions, excitedly expressing his thoughts. These medical techniques are truly remarkable, but are the things mentioned really of this world? How can one see the damage to bones without cutting through flesh, or even see a fetus in the womb? Isn't that like having X-ray vision? Zhang Xiaochuan firmly replied, what you are referring to are medical instruments. Some already exist, and others will be developed soon. Sun Ji said, I promise. I will write my resignation now. When can I see these amazing things? Zhang Xiaochuan initially thought it was too soon to say so, but then realized that this was exactly the effect he wanted. So he changed the subject and said, any time is fine, but if you leave, you might not be back for many years, so settle down first. I'll give you 7 days. No need, 3 days will be enough. All right, 3 days later. Head south out of the city to this address, and someone will naturally be there to assist you. Leaving the Imperial Medical Office, Zhang Xiaochuan felt quite pleased. He hadn't expected to secure Sun Ji so easily, without even discussing salary. Of course, Zhang Xiaochuan wouldn't treat him unfairly. To Zhang Xiaochuan, money was just a number. As long as there were people, weapons, and transportation, the current world was like a game map. He could claim whatever he wanted. What Zhang Xiaochuan needed now were talents, especially those who could help him quickly advance the technology tree, and the medical technology tree must be fully developed, as nothing is more important than life itself. After resting for a night to regain his strength, Zhang Xiaochuan began his visit to the palace to meet the emperor and discuss the city-wide electrification. Currently, he was responsible for the installation of the overall circuit and lighting. In fact, testing had already confirmed that they could be used during installation. He could activate a portion of it first, allowing everyone to use electricity sooner. But after successfully testing each area, he decisively cut off the power, planning to unify the electrification later. Zhang Xiaochuan did this because only when the entire Chang'an was electrified simultaneously would it create a stunning effect. Zhang Xiaochuan petitioned to hold a city-wide electrification ceremony, named Illuminating the Tang Dynasty. Li Longji had no objections, and the ministers had long been eager for the emperor to use electric lights. So there were no obstacles to this petition. The emperor immediately had people consult oracles to determine a date, and seeing the emperor's urgency and the official's anticipation, the official responsible for divination naturally found a date very soon. 3 days later was suitable for the ceremony. To achieve the best shocking effect, the illumination of the Tang Dynasty was scheduled for 3 days later at the hour of the dog, which was about an hour after sunset. 3 days later, the entire populace of Chang'an eagerly awaited the arrival of night. It was the first time everyone was so eager for the sun to set. In the evening, countless households had finished dinner early, gathering in small groups, all eyes fixed toward the direction of the palace, with some already congregated beneath the Huayue Xianghui building, where the crowd was so dense it was packed tightly. Today, all court officials worked overtime to participate in this unprecedented event. Those of higher status accompanied the emperor to the second-floor platform of the Huayue Xianghui building, in front of the Huasua Xianghui Tower. A vacant lot was densely packed with rows of small wooden boxes, all filled with fireworks. On such a momentous day, a fireworks display was essential. As night quietly fell, a gentle breeze blew, making it a perfect evening for relaxation. While waiting for the event to begin, people chatted to pass the time. and the atmosphere around the tower was filled with lively chatter, both upstairs and downstairs. At the stroke of the hour, without a second to spare, Li Longji softly said, "Let's begin." Gao Lisher shouted loudly, "Extinguish." Then, people who had prepared in advance from all directions shouted in unison, "Extinguish." As the command spread, the dimly glowing torches and lanterns gradually went out, plunging the entire city into darkness, and everything fell silent as everyone held their breath. When darkness enveloped the surroundings, Li Longji calmly commanded, "Light the lamps." Gao Lisher shouted again, "Light the lamps." The call echoed, and, as the command spread, all the streetlights lit up, and the lights in the markets turned on as well, illuminating the entire city as bright as day. Li Longji could no longer maintain his calm demeanor. He stood up in excitement, gazing at the gradually brightening city with immense shock and thrill. The small lamp he lit in his palace seemed like a firefly compared to this spectacle. The level of astonishment was beyond imagination. Even Li Longji, who was mentally prepared, was profoundly moved, let alone the ministers and common people who had no concept of what was happening. If one could see the expressions on their faces, they would all be gaping, completely stunned. Li Longji patted Zhang Xiaochuan on the shoulder, saying, "This electric light presented by the Marquis of Shuzhou is truly miraculous and will benefit our great dynasty, leaving a lasting legacy." Zhang Xiaochuan understood that Li Longji was not boasting about himself, but reminding others to praise him. Sure enough, the ever-obsequious officials quickly responded. Before Zhang Xiaochuan could express his gratitude, Li Linfu's voice rang out. "This miracle is due to your majesty's benevolent governance and military prowess, earning the love of the people and peace across the seas. Your achievements surpass those of the great emperors of the past. It is this divine favor that has allowed the night to shine as bright as day. This is an unprecedented endeavor. Your majesty truly deserves to be known as a wise ruler for all ages." Zhang Xiaochuan, standing closest, felt the impact the most. This is outrageous. How can they claim such praise? This bright light is my achievement too. How can they flatter so smoothly? Li Longji was grinning widely, even feigning modesty, saying, "Li Qing, you flatter me. Am I really that great? Your majesty need not be humble. I congratulate you on this auspicious event, creating an unparalleled achievement. Becoming an emperor for the ages." As Li Linfu finished his flattery, all the officials knelt down in unison, exclaiming, "Congratulations, your majesty, for this unparalleled achievement. Becoming an emperor for the ages." The common people outside also fell to their knees like dominoes, chanting, "Long live the emperor! Long live the emperor! Long live the emperor!" At this moment, Li Longji's vanity was greatly satisfied. He fully believed he was indeed an emperor for the ages. He addressed the officials, "All of you, please rise. Join me in celebrating with the people." Li Longji stepped up to the railing facing the street, and Gao Lisher immediately guided him to a microphone that had been arranged by Zhang Xiaochuan, who had also demonstrated its use to Li Longji beforehand. Facing the microphone, Li Longji spoke at a normal volume. "All ministers, please rise." At that moment, two massive speakers on either side of the Huayue Xianghui Tower produced a thunderous sound along with Li Longji's voice, startling not only the common people and officials, but even Li Longji himself. He thought, "I didn't expect the sound to be this loud. Luckily, I was advised to use a normal volume. If I had shouted like before, it would have sounded like thunder." The booming sound from the speakers surprised the people below, who felt it was the Emperor's majesty striking deep into their hearts. Those who had initially planned to rise found themselves kneeling again halfway, shouting, "Long live the Emperor!" Taking advantage of the people's cheers, Li Longji composed himself and continued, "All ministers, please rise. Today, I am very happy because I bring light to the people and illuminate the night for the great Tang." As Li Longji began to speak, he couldn't stop. He talked about the convenience and safety brought by the new lighting and looked forward to the future applications of electricity, all of which he had heard from Zhang Xiaochuan. After discussing these topics, he reminisced about the past, listing the achievements of his family, and spoke of how he restored order after chaos, emphasizing how he appointed talented individuals to govern the nation and bring peace and prosperity to the people. In summary, it was a lengthy monologue lasting about an hour, detailing the glory of Li Longji and the Tang dynasty. Zhang Xiaochuan found himself drowsy, wishing he could find a way to doze off while standing. He thought that perhaps future events should have tiered seating to allow for discreet naps. In contrast, the common people below were completely engaged, blaming the lack of entertainment in their times. They felt that Li Longji's words were not mere banter, but rather a grand retelling of the Sui and Tang dynasties from Li Longji's perspective. Coupled with the excitement generated by the newly installed massive speakers, they were captivated, feeling invigorated and knowing they wouldn't sleep that night. Li Longji reiterated that there would be no curfew that night, and all markets would remain open for revelry. Before that, there would be a fireworks display. With that, Li Longji took out a gun and fired a shot into the sky. Following the sound of the gunshot, those who had taken their positions beforehand ignited the fireworks. With a loud bang, a bright light shot into the sky, and just as it was about to dissipate, it exploded with a second bang, blooming into a massive flower in the air, followed by thousands of sparks bursting forth with a crackling sound, providing a stunning visual feast. The sky was illuminated by the fireworks, shining brighter than any lights, and everyone was awestruck by the breathtaking display. Before they could even catch their breath, the sounds of explosions continued, with each spark shooting up, bursting, and radiating brilliance. The entire ceremony to illuminate the Great Tang reached a new climax amidst cheers and shouts of "Long live the Emperor." As the celebrations continued, Li Longji turned and entered the Huaiyue Xianghui Tower, where the banquet inside was also ready. The banquet hall had been transformed by Zhang Xiaochuan, with spotlights and ambient lights installed above the stage and speakers set up all around. After Li Longji led the officials in, the banquet commenced directly. After a drink, the opening dance began. The stage effects were so impressive that Li Longji took to the stage himself, singing and dancing. The ministers, full of energy, joined in. And as the ambient lights shone, it felt like the royal banquet had suddenly transformed into a nightclub. Zhang Xiaochuan couldn't help but squint at the scene. Wondering if the ambient lights were a bit excessive, the royal banquet hall felt a bit too casual. However, given the carefree nature of the Tang dynasty's rulers and officials, it somehow felt fitting. Zhang Xiaochuan couldn't help but recall the internet craze in later years about Liu Bei dancing at a nightclub. He imagined if Li Longji were to put on a big coat and smoke a cigar, it would be quite an unsettling image. At that moment, Chang'an Avenue, while not as lively, was still bustling with activity. Various snacks, street performances, and small shops filled Zhuke Street. In the past, major festivals typically lifted curfews, with bright lights illuminating the night. However, the brightness back then was incomparable to now, so today's lifted curfew made everyone even more excited. The happiest were likely the inns and entertainment houses, all packed with guests. People gathered to discuss electric lights and their wonders, and to talk about the emperor's version of the Sui and Tang dynasties, each one seemingly as if they were the creators of the electric lights and influential lords. Zhang Xiaochuan was not one for crowds. After the emperor had his fun, they finally got to the main topic. It was a significant event, and naturally, rewards would be given. First, all the court officials received financial rewards, followed by the personnel from the Ministry of Works who were responsible for the project, each getting a promotion. Finally, it was Zhang Xiaochuan's turn to be rewarded, but when he heard the reward, he couldn't help but curse inwardly, thinking, is this what the emperor considers a reward? Who doesn't know that for officials of the Tang dynasty, marrying a princess is the end of their lives? It's equivalent to being ungrateful for kindness, and now this is the reward? They didn't even bother to give me any financial compensation. Reluctantly, Zhang Xiaochuan stepped forward to express his gratitude, doing so with utmost respect. He bowed to Li Longji but was taken aback when he saw the woman beside him. Why is Yang Yuhuan here? No, it's not her, just someone who looks 70 like her, but seems more mature, more charming, and more poised. And that tight leather outfit looks like something I designed. Don't forget to thank His Majesty. Gao Lisher's voice interrupted Zhang Xiaochuan's thoughts, and he realized he had been somewhat rude. He quickly bowed again, saying, I thank your majesty for the reward. Long live the emperor. Li Longji didn't mind Zhang Xiaochuan's oversight. Instead, he was pleased that the woman beside him attracted everyone's attention and smiled, telling Zhang Xiaochuan to step back. The music resumed, and the dancing continued, akin to a chaotic drinking fest. Zhang Xiaochuan seized the chance to sneak out for some fresh air. Congratulations, Prince Consort. Zhang Xiaochuan was most annoyed when others congratulated him on becoming the Prince Consort, so he reflexively cursed back. To his surprise, when he turned around, he saw Yang Zhao. Chapter 297. Why don't you compete with him? Yang Guozhong, seeing that Zhang Xiaochuan recognized him, said, It is indeed I. This humble official greets the Prince Consort. But I have now changed my name to Yang Guozhong. Zhang Xiaochuan said, Oh, this name change has potential. I've been in the capital for over half a year. Yet I've never seen you before. Yang Guozhong replied, That's because I've been assigned a task while working in the Ministry of Revenue. And I've just returned to report after finishing my duties at the provincial office. It seems you're also at the banquet, which indicates you're doing well. Yang Guozhong immediately drooped his face, saying, I was indeed doing well. In just over half a year in the capital, I've risen from a commoner to a fifth-rank official in the Ministry of Revenue. This speed is miraculous. Others might not even hope to achieve it in their lifetime. But seeing the royal sun today, I realized what it means to be incomparable. I think with your efforts, you could soon enter the central authority. I'm just a useless person. Zhang Xiaochuan's appearance felt like a blow to the spirited Yang Guozhong, causing him to fall into self-doubt. Zhang Xiaochuan noticed this and patted Yang Guozhong on the shoulder, saying, You're overreacting. There's a saying, people compare and die, goods compare and get discarded. You might think I'm 1,000 times better than you, but have you considered that despite our efforts, we are still... Zhang Xiaochuan pointed to the sky. That person can make things happen with just a word. Why compare yourself to me? Why not compare yourself to him? Please, don't say that. Yang Guozhong covered Zhang Xiaochuan's mouth, every muscle trembling with the effort, but he didn't dare to shout loudly, tears brimming in his eyes. You really dare to say anything? How can that even be compared? Is it right to use such examples? I'm terrified. Zhang Xiaochuan dismissed it casually. This isn't your fault. You know you can't compare. So why do you? Can you really compare yourself to me? Do you still want to compare? I was wrong. Yang Guozhong knelt down directly. I didn't know the heights of heaven and earth, foolishly thinking I could stand shoulder to shoulder with a celestial master. My meager achievements today are all thanks to the celestial master's brilliant strategies. I actually felt depressed about my slower promotion compared to you. I'm truly despicable. Zhang Xiaochuan stopped Yang Guozhong, saying, All right, let's skip this topic. I have something to ask you. Please, speak, Your Highness. Call me the Marquis of Shuzhou. I dislike being called Your Highness. The person sitting next to His Majesty today is wearing clothes that seem to be what I gave you. Do you know who she is? Yang Guozhong replied, That outfit is indeed crafted by the Marquis of Shuzhou. That woman is Yang Yueying. Turns out it's her. That makes sense, Zhang Xiaochuan interrupted, awakening to the realization. Seeing that Zhang Xiaochuan seemed to understand completely, Yang Guozhong asked, "Do you know this woman?" "Of course, I wouldn't be asking if I didn't. I heard she somewhat resembles Yunu, which piqued my curiosity." "That must be what Yunu told the Marquis," Yang Guozhong said. Zhang Xiaochuan nodded yes. "But shouldn't she be a widow? When did that happen?" Yang Guozhong quietly explained the situation. It turned out this was the plan Zhang Xiaochuan had prepared. After Yang Yueying put on the outfit, she was supposed to entice Li Longji, who, having recently experienced a heartbreak with his beloved Wu Huifei, had not felt attracted to any woman for a long time. Yang Yueying's appearance was just timely, and they quickly hit it off. Logically, a nameless and unrecognized woman shouldn't sit in a position meant for the empress, but with the central authority highly concentrated in Li Longji's hands, no one dared to speak out. In history, Li Longji brought his son's wife, Yang Yuhuan, to become a concubine. Now, having a widow as a concubine seems like a common practice. It's just a matter of a missing imperial decree for the title. Yang Guozhong leveraged this situation to be promoted to a lower-level official in the Ministry of Revenue, and naturally, he needed to achieve some political accomplishments afterward. Just like in history, he claimed that the weather was fair and the grain in the public granaries was rotting due to excess, suggesting that they sell the stored grain and convert it into silk and cloth to be sent to the capital for centralized storage. The emperor praised him, encouraging him to proceed freely, and Yang Guozhong took this official task to various places. In this matter, Li Longji was a complete fool. The public granary was meant for grain donated by various people during harvest times, akin to modern charitable donations, specifically for disaster relief in times of need. Now, Yang Guozhong claimed that the fair weather meant the grain was unnecessary and that it was better to convert it into money for the national treasury. This was utterly shameless, akin to saying, if charitable donations cannot be used up by the recipients, I'll just take them for myself. The key point is that Li Longji actually approved it. Zhang Xiaochuan wanted to tell Yang Guozhong to have some self-respect, but he held back. "I understand. It seems you have other matters to discuss with me." Yang Guozhong leaned closer to Zhang Xiaochuan and whispered in his ear, "Li the traitor is planning something against you, so I came to inform you." Upon hearing this, Zhang Xiaochuan wasn't particularly surprised. Calculating the time, the lackeys of Li Linfu and those wealthy merchants should be making moves soon. "You seem to have gained his trust," he remarked. "Well, not quite trust yet," Yang Guozhong replied. "Oh, that's normal. After all, he is a very cautious person, otherwise, how could he maintain such a solid position? So what exactly are they planning?" Yang Guozhong's face turned red, and he hesitated. During their secret discussions, "I only caught a rough idea and don't know the details." Seeing the guilt on Yang Guozhong's face, Zhang Xiaochuan reassured him, "It's all right. I'll arrange for someone to investigate. Your information has been quite helpful." Yang Guozhong, being perceptive, noticed that Zhang Xiaochuan remained calm throughout, clearly knowing much more than he did. However, it was fine since he was merely there to show loyalty. "It's truly an honor to assist the Marquis of Shuzhou. Rest assured, I will always be loyal to you," Yang Guozhong said. Zhang Xiaochuan replied, "You won't be neglected while following me. However, as mentioned earlier, you need to remain in Li Linfu's camp for now. It's more convenient for us to maintain some distance on the surface." "Understood. But I have more questions for the Marquis of Shuzhou." "Go ahead," Zhang Xiaochuan said. Yang Guozhong continued, "I'm being promoted too quickly, of course. Not as much as the Marquis of Shuzhou. Normally, there shouldn't be any opportunities for promotion right now, and I've run out of strategies. So I'm here to seek guidance from the Marquis." Zhang Xiaochuan thought for a moment and whispered in Yang Guozhong's ear. Yang Guozhong nodded frequently, feeling that Zhang Xiaochuan was truly remarkable, not only for his clever strategies, but also because they seemed tailor-made for him. Zhang Xiaochuan looked at Yang Guozhong with a starry-eyed expression, thinking to himself, "These are all techniques you've used before. Teaching you in advance will surely leave you confused." Finally, Zhang Xiaochuan advised, "Let's keep it at that for now, but remember, if you rise too quickly, you need to take time to settle down. Don't aim too high. Start with a small goal, like becoming a deputy minister of revenue." Yang Guozhong agreed verbally but thought to himself, "Is this a small goal? You're being a bit harsh." Chapter 298. Conspiracy under the lamp. On a moonless and windy night, a manor in Chang'an was brightly lit, with several people gathered to discuss matters. The leader, Do Yi, spoke up, "Everything is now ready. Although we had plans earlier, to ensure nothing goes wrong, I've invited you all to sort out the action details." Wang Yuanbao said, "Do, are you being overly cautious? It's just that young kid Zhang Xiaochuan. Is he really that significant?" "Better safe than sorry," Do Yi replied. "Besides, that kid is not as simple as he seems. Looking at everything since he entered the court, your bad habit needs to change. His rise is entirely due to those peculiar skills. Otherwise, how could he gain the favor of the sage? We have now grasped those skills, and the rest should fall into place. If it weren't for the complexities still being digested, we would have dealt with him long ago." "Are we really gathering to discuss strategies for just a young kid?" Do Yi retorted angrily. "Shut up. If you're going to have that attitude, I'll ask the minister to replace you." Bringing up Li Linfu made Wang Yuanbao quiet down. After all, as fellow wealthy merchants, Do Yi didn't want to offend Wang Yuanbao too much. He said, "Brother Wang, we are both serving the minister, so we must ensure everything goes perfectly. I spoke too harshly out of urgency, so please don't take it to heart." Wang Yuanbao, understanding the situation, replied, "No problem. but we are representatives of major clans in the business world. If we stomp our feet together, the entire realm will tremble. So it feels like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. I misspoke. I hope you won't hold it against me. Doi chuckled. In that case, let's continue. Brother Wang makes a good point. Zhang Xiaochuan relies on those extraordinary skills. Let's first discuss the intelligence we've gathered. Since our confrontation with him, no new products have appeared on the market. On the surface, it seems like he's exhausted his resources and can't produce anything to counter us. However, I suspect he still has a trump card. After all, we created many new items in just a few months after acquiring the machinery. Wang Yuanbao wanted to make a few sarcastic comments but decided to keep silent. At that moment, Luo Hui interjected. Do, your concerns are not without merit. However, we truly have substantial resources behind us. Many products have been in our operation for many years, even generations, while that machinery is merely a convenient tool. We can use it to improve existing tools, enhancing quality and output. That's where our strength lies. The Zhang family only received a title because they aligned with the right master, and they are all mere warriors. What depth could they possibly have? If they run out of tricks, it's even more likely they will falter. Doi said, it is said this way. But the industrial zone that previously cooperated with us seems to still be under construction. Unfortunately, the investigators cannot get in, and we have no idea what is being produced. Seeing Dou Yi's indecision and constant concern about Zhang Xiaochuan's hidden strengths, I wanted to say something to provoke him. However, although Dou Yi is cautious, he is also very shrewd and can see through Wang Yuanbao's intentions. He quickly continued, the reason I repeatedly emphasize that Zhang Xiaochuan may still have a backup plan is to encourage sincere cooperation on this matter regarding the Zhang family. To advance and retreat together. Anyone who wavers or tries to fish in troubled waters at that time, I hope you can bear the consequences. Only then did everyone realize that Dou Yi was using Zhang Xiaochuan's movements to put pressure on them, and they all expressed their positions. Dou Yi was very satisfied with their responses and said, all right, let us get to the main topic. I will reiterate the plan. If there are any omissions or better ideas, bring them up after I'm finished. With the construction of the industrial park, the bank opened by the Zhang family in Chang'an is the largest and currently has the most circulating vouchers, so our focus in this game will be on Chang'an. First, we will hold a press conference in Chang'an to launch all the products previously operated by the Zhang family. Since the Zhang family is just starting out, most people do not know where these products come from. At that time, we will publicly announce them as the creators of these products and sell them at a price far lower than the current one. Once this gains traction, the Zhang family's products will no longer be able to leave Shu province. Secondly, while selling the new products, we will also announce a ban on the use of vouchers and widely promote that the court does not recognize them. We will arrange personnel to incite the exchange of vouchers for copper coins. When a run on the vouchers begins, we will add fuel to the fire and exchange all the vouchers we have accumulated at once. By then, the Zhang family will not be able to produce cash and will have to use the previously purchased land and minerals as collateral, giving us an opportunity to drive down the prices. In this way, the Zhang family will have no way out, and we can use the excuse of letting them off easy to obtain the formula for the vouchers. At that point, we will truly have mastered all of the Zhang family's techniques, and our investment in buying from them will not have been in vain. We will make them give everything back. After Dou Yi finished speaking, everyone was nearly drooling, as if Zhang Xiaochuan had already fallen. And the nearly 10 million yuan spent on buying the technology would all come back, along with the unique and unreplicable voucher printing technology, which equates to money, printing as much as one desires. In the end, it was still Dou Yi who remained calm. After he coughed a couple of times, everyone came back to their senses, realizing that this plan had not yet succeeded. Wang Yuanbao said, this time I have put 2/3 of my family's land at stake, and my family alone has raised 5 million yuan in vouchers. Adding what everyone has, we at least account for half of what the Zhang family has issued. When we incite the public to exchange, the Zhang family will need to prepare at least 30 million yuan in cash. Otherwise, they will only have a path to collapse. Luo Huizhe exclaimed, I have to say, Zhang Xiaochuan is truly courting death. To oppose us, he is willing to issue so many fake vouchers. 30 million yuan in copper coins would stack up like a mountain. I'm afraid the treasury doesn't even have that much. Wang Yuanbao said, that's why I say he will definitely die, Dou Xiong. If there's nothing else, let's disperse. I haven't even put in any effort for this matter. Dou Yi, seeing their nonchalant demeanor, couldn't help but silently curse their short-sightedness, and replied, all right then, let's all go our separate ways. As he watched the crowd leave, a servant beside Dou Yi said, Master, once we stop using the vouchers, the lack of copper coins will become apparent, which won't be beneficial for our business transactions. Dou Yi replied, look, even you, my servant, have noticed this, yet none of these self-proclaimed big merchants have seen it. But precisely because of this, we have the opportunity to profit from it. The servant said, perhaps they all look down on that Zhang family's young man too much, which has blinded them. You mentioned profiting from the shortage of coins, but we should utilize the new type of. He added cautiously, you know what I mean. But don't say it out loud. Be careful, there might be ears on the other side of the wall. What Dou Yi didn't know was that there truly were ears on the other side of the wall. Their entire conversation had been clearly heard by someone on the other end of Chang'an. Chapter 299. The listening device in the lamp Teng Yi put down the receiver and cursed, this Dou Yi is too cunning. Does he suspect we can eavesdrop? Zhang Xiaochuan replied irritably, do you think that's possible? Luckily, this listening device was created just in time. From now on, their schemes will be under our control. Erlang. You're impressive. Who would have thought to hide a listening device in a lamp? It's simply ingenious. No one would suspect that a lamp overhead could eavesdrop. Wherever there are lamps, we will have our ears. As for this currently rudimentary listening device, Zhang Xiaochuan had no praise to offer, not criticizing it was already the limit. After all, it was quite ineffective, with poor transmission quality, a short lifespan, and a large size. If it weren't for the circuit being connected to the household power supply and a relay device installed on the meter, the signal wouldn't even transmit. He then said, this model has too many issues. We need to arrange for the headquarters to speed up development. Besides, the listening device in the lamp is too obvious. They will easily notice something is off in the future. Xiaoya, as a personal assistant, nodded and said, understood, I will relay your words back to headquarters shortly. Husband, you look so calm. Aren't you worried? From their conversation, this matter seems very well planned, and I feel it will be difficult to handle. Zhang Xiaochuan patted Xiaoya's head, don't say that. With the listening device, we can anticipate their actions in advance, even without their plans. This matter is not a big deal at all. Teng Yi, tell me how much reserves we have. Ahem. Teng Yi cleared his throat and put on a serious demeanor before saying, Madam, you may not know, but our treasury has as much copper coin as 2 vaults. And we have a vault full of silver and gold, along with other goods. So we are not short on money. Although Teng Yi's words were somewhat jumbled, he conveyed one point clearly, they were not short on money. However, Zhang Xiaochuan, who had a background in technology and a compulsive obsession with data, kicked Teng Yi and said, what nonsense are you talking about? You didn't provide any data at all. When we checked the treasury, you didn't remember a single figure, did you? Teng Yi pouted, what do I need to remember those for? I just know we have a lot of money. At that time, when Erlang saw so much money, he just collapsed on the ground. I was too busy laughing at you to remember it. Zhang Xiaochuan received a heavy blow, immediately interrupted Teng Yi's continued attack with a kick. Alright, you can stop talking, let me speak. The total amount of vouchers we issued was around 50 million. Our actual wealth includes 20 million in copper coins, and gold and silver worth about 20 million. Plus we have other assets, making it at least 50 million. So their attempts at a bank run pose no threat to us, and we are not worried at all. Xiaoya looked at Zhang Xiaochuan like a little fan. Husband, you are amazing. I've never even heard of so much money, and you already have it. How did you manage that? There's my contribution in this. I plundered the nobles of the neighboring country, at least contributing 1 treasury. I heard your little king has also collected a lot in Tubo. Zhang Xiaochuan said to Teng Yi. Alright, you're impressive. Look at you getting all puffed up. Counting money as if it's in a treasury. Let us talk about something serious. What do you think Do Yi meant by that last statement? Teng Yi scratched his head, grinning. Zhang Xiaochuan looked to the sky in disbelief. Did you put all your skill points into clowning around? Teng Yi, confused, asked what? Never mind. The coming days won't be peaceful. I have 2 tasks for you. First, protect Xiaoya, and second, protect me. Upon hearing this, Teng Yi immediately became serious. Understood. Zhang Xiaochuan then told Xiaoya, the new device mentioned by Do Yi should be some kind of machine. Please ask Uncle Mo to gather people to investigate what it is. Focusing on things that could serve as substitutes for currency. After Xiaoya left, Teng Yi leaned in and said, speaking of protection, Director Mo asked me to bring you some things. Saying this, he took out a box. After Zhang Xiaochuan opened it, he looked puzzled. So many hats? Are you sure Uncle Mo asked you to bring these? Absolutely. Are you sure this isn't a prank? No. Come on, just try it and you'll know. Zhang Xiaochuan skeptically picked up an official hat. It felt heavy and thicker than normal. What's special about this hat? Teng Yi chuckled. These are all bulletproof hats. Prepared for various occasions. After all, there are quite a few firearms circulating outside now, and basically every prominent family has them. Although they were poorly made products you created, they're still guns. Zhang Xiaochuan put the hat on his head. Not bad, just a bit heavy, and rebutted Teng Yi. What poorly made products? I made manual rifles. Alright, but with this hat, I feel much safer. Although I'm not used to wearing hats, I'm more afraid of dying. Zhang Xiaochuan looked in the mirror. There was no visible difference. Not bad, I'll wear it like this. After all, having short hair makes me an obvious target. And this third-rank official outfit isn't too eye-catching in the capital. Hearing this, Teng Yi instinctively touched his short hair. Should I get a hat too? Zhang Xiaochuan glanced at Teng Yi. You don't need one. Why not? Because you're thick-skinned. Teng Yi thought for a moment and asked, Erlang, what is it like to be a princess of the Li Tang dynasty? Get lost. The day after the meeting with Do Yi and the others, rumors began to circulate in the capital, saying that a large-scale press conference was about to be held in both markets. Nobody really knew what the press conference was about, but it was said to involve selling things. The items for sale were all recently introduced novelties, and the prices were surprisingly low. It was reported that a high-quality steel kitchen knife only cost 51. How cheap is this 51 knife? Before Zhang Xiaochuan developed a new iron smelting method, 1 pound of raw iron was about 71, with an iron content of around 80%. After being forged into refined iron and then made into a kitchen knife, just the raw iron would cost 2 pounds, not to mention the labor and forging material costs. Selling a kitchen knife for 201 would only be considered the cost price. Moreover, it was said that there would also be iron bulls that didn't need to graze. They could carry goods and plow fields. These bulls not only had strength greater than ordinary ones by tenfold or more, but they also wouldn't get tired. The news spread rapidly. and discussions could be heard in every street and alley. The entire Chang'an was looking forward to the arrival of the press conference. Naturally, Zhang Xiaochuan had heard about this as well. When Xiaoya asked, "My lord, what should we do about this?" he replied, "Let them climb to the highest point first. Then I will bring them down. Have someone prepare a carriage. I need to go to the palace." Chapter 300. An emperor who doesn't rise early without profit in the Xianjing Palace's imperial study. The emperor said, "Your Majesty, you must take my side. Those wealthy merchants, relying on their strong backgrounds, have unilaterally torn up the contract. They are clearly bullying me." Li Longji looked at Zhang Xiaochuan with disdain. "Enough. As a third-rank marquis, what kind of appearance is this? Stand up and speak properly." Zhang Xiaochuan, looking aggrieved, continued, "Your Majesty, they have truly gone too far this time. If you do not support me, I fear I will soon be left with nothing. Don't mention building a garden for you. I might not even have a place to live." Li Longji said, "Don't be so dramatic. What exactly happened? Tell me." Zhang Xiaochuan hesitated and then explained the situation regarding the partnership with the 10 major merchants for the garden project. After listening, Li Longji feigned ignorance, saying, "You say they tore up the contract, but didn't they already compensate you for the garden? Can't you just produce your own goods to sell?" "Your Majesty, all that money has gone into road repairs. You know that it was I who funded the road from Shu to Chang'an." When Li Longji mentioned the partnership funds from the 10 major merchants, his eyes lit up. The emperor had never seen 1,000,000 guan before. Zhang Xiaochuan quickly interrupted, "Your Majesty, you must understand, the supplies from Shu to the capital are now fast and plentiful. It counts as a balance for your merits and faults. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to." Zhang Xiaochuan thought to himself, "This emperor is heartless. If it weren't for the fact that I spend more than I earn, he might truly be eyeing me. But now they have the goods I have, and they also have goods I don't. How am I supposed to continue this business?" Li Longji replied, "While you do have a point, this is normal commercial behavior, and they haven't broken any laws. Bringing this to me won't help. I cannot show favoritism just because you have merit. The court is not run for you alone. Everything must be fair. I would be foolish to trust your words, claiming fairness, when it's just a matter of waiting for my leverage. But first, I need to clarify my contributions with the emperor. Your Majesty, the court is not solely for me, but I pay a lot of taxes, and I also boost the local economy. Do you know about the tax revenue from Jiannan Dao last quarter?" Li Longji said, "You care about finance? What a coincidence. The tax accounts from last season have just been submitted. General Gao, go fetch them for me." Zhang Xiaochuan couldn't help but exclaim, "Your Majesty, if I may speak bluntly, summer is nearly over. How come the spring tax has only just been tallied? It's always been like this. What's so surprising about it? You're just being overly concerned." Li Longji replied as he took the tax ledger from Gao Lisher and exclaimed, "The spring tax has risen so much this year." Zhang Xiaochuan interjected, "Your Majesty, do take a look at where the biggest increases are." After flipping through for a while, Li Longji remarked, "It has actually increased by as much as 50%. And at least 30% of that is from Jiannan Dao, an extra 3,000,000 guan. What's the reason for this? Your Majesty, this is all my achievement. My goods sell well in the empire, and passing through customs and entering the markets requires tax payments. Moreover, the money I earn is used to pay wages and buy materials, and once these people have money, they will spend it, which in turn generates tax revenue. Thus, the entire market of Shuzhou and even Jiannan Dao comes alive, influencing the entire empire. This is market economy. To realize a market economy, one must mention economic structural reforms." "Stop," Li Longji interrupted. "The turmoil from reforms is too great. We must think this through carefully. Now, what is your purpose today?" Zhang Xiaochuan replied, "Yes, Your Majesty. I wish to express that the increase in tax revenue is largely due to my efforts. Not only have I promoted the circulation of goods, but more importantly, I am an honest and trustworthy merchant. All goods are taxed strictly according to the rules. Such merchants are rare. Don't you think the court should protect them as a model? So what exactly do you want? If you don't say, I'll have you thrown out." Zhang Xiaochuan quickly said, "I hope Your Majesty will prohibit them from selling products I invented." Li Longji retorted, "Do you think that's possible? It seems unrealistic. Then please acknowledge that vouchers are legal currency." "No. Can you please make a proper request?" Zhang Xiaochuan pondered and said, If that's not possible, at least the court shouldn't issue any decrees banning the use of vouchers." Li Longji thought for a moment. "This I can agree to. But the court isn't solely decided by me. How do you plan to persuade the officials?" Zhang Xiaochuan thought to himself, "It seems this isn't about convincing the court, but rather that the benefits haven't been adequately offered. Your Majesty, I may be somewhat foolish. If Your Majesty can persuade the officials, I am willing to offer 1/10 of the profits as a reward." Upon hearing this, Li Longji thought, this kid finally got to the point. But I wonder how much this 1/10 amounts to. I'm not greedy for your little money. I can discuss it with the other officials. But how much can this 1/10 yield? Zhang Xiaochuan estimated, for the products under my management, conservatively speaking, 1/10 of the profits would be around 200,000. 200,000 isn't much. It's 200,000 guan. Zhang Xiaochuan emphasized the word guan particularly strongly. Li Longji was slightly taken aback, then smiled and said, 200,000 guan isn't a small amount, but when it comes to the court, you seem to be stingy with me. You sell the formula for tens of millions of guan, yet here you are being so frugal. Zhang Xiaochuan exclaimed in protest, Your Majesty, those tens of millions are for small gains, and I am now facing retribution. The key is that I have already spent that money, so I was just speaking casually. There's no need to keep bringing it up. Your Majesty, I have one more thing to report. When we initially planned to build the power plant and install electric lights in Chang'an, we estimated a profit of 300,000 yuan per month. Now that Chang'an is fully electrified, the results we've seen in the past few days are roughly in line with our estimates. Since this had been reported at the beginning of the planning, Li Longji wasn't very excited and said somewhat blandly, not bad. Zhang Xiaochuan noticed Li Longji's indifference and realized he thought he was seeking credit, so he didn't mind his attitude and continued. I have a way to increase this profit amount by 20 times, or even more. Li Longji exclaimed in surprise. That is not something you can just say lightly. Zhang Xiaochuan confidently replied, of course, I wouldn't say it lightly, and this is just a conservative estimate. The actual amount could be much higher. Seeing that Li Longji had regained his composure and seemed satisfied with his words, he said, good, I'm all ears. Chapter 301. The Emperor's Thoughts. Zhang Xiaochuan continued. Electricity is also a form of energy, Your Majesty. You can think of it as something tangible. Currently, people only use one light bulb, so the electricity consumed is minimal. However, if more things require electricity, then the consumption will increase significantly. Li Longji was a good listener and asked at the right moment. How can we make other things use electricity? Zhang Xiaochuan followed up on Li Longji's question and said, for instance, during the cold winter and hot summer seasons, I have developed a device that can heat the air in winter and cool it in summer. I call it an air conditioner. And its electricity consumption is at least equivalent to 20 light bulbs. Li Longji was first surprised by the existence of such a device, saying, can such a miraculous thing really be made? That indeed requires a lot of electricity. Of course, it has already been developed and will soon go into mass production. Li Longji said, forget about mass production for now. The weather is hot today, and my palace is extremely warm, although there are ice blocks. Using too many is not good for my health. If you have this marvelous thing, why not present it to me quickly? I will certainly not treat you unfairly. Zhang Xiaochuan realized that the emperor could sometimes be short-sighted and extremely selfish, only thinking of himself first. So he gently guided, Your Majesty, do not rush. Once the air conditioner is produced, it will naturally be prioritized for you. But we need to think bigger. Consider a monthly profit of 300,000 yuan, 600,000 yuan, or even 1 million yuan. Li Longji's heart skipped a beat when Zhang Xiaochuan mentioned 1 million yuan. Isn't that more than the annual tax revenue of the treasury? No. This thing must be expensive to produce, and ordinary people won't be able to afford it, so it can't generate that much profit. Your Majesty, if in addition to air conditioning, there are also electric fans, electric kettles for boiling water, electric cookers for meals, and even electric cabinets for cooling and storing food. What a sight that would be. Zhang Xiaochuan said while gazing at the sky, then turned his head and added, but that's not enough. Our great dynasty is not just Chang'an. We also have Luoyang, Yizhou, Yangzhou, Yuzhou, and there are 15 roads, 20 counties, and over 1,500 counties. Your Majesty, do you think the electricity consumption could increase by 2 or 3 times? Li Longji was taken aback. Yes, there is such a vast potential market to tap into. If all of this is realized, wouldn't the court be earning a fortune every year? Good, excellent. You truly deserve to be my trusted minister, my future son-in-law. Well said. Please draft a detailed plan. I want to implement it as soon as possible. Instead of immediately agreeing, Zhang Xiaochuan took the opportunity to negotiate. Your Majesty, I have a request. Seeing his eager demeanor, the emperor responded, fine, I guarantee there will be no court documents prohibiting your vouchers. Whether you can compete with them will depend on your own skills. However, if all those electric devices you mentioned are produced, they won't stand a chance. Zhang Xiaochuan quickly expressed his gratitude. Thank you for your support, Your Majesty. I will return and draft the proposal. Yes, go ahead. I will await your proposal. After Zhang Xiaochuan left, Li Longji was still reeling from the idea of immense wealth, but he felt that Zhang Xiaochuan's words were somewhat reserved. He then asked Gao Lishir, what do you think of what the Marquis of Shuzhou just said? Gao Lishir, not one to mince words after years of service, replied, since Your Majesty has asked, I will speak frankly. I believe the Marquis of Shuzhou is only reporting good news and not the bad. Indeed, I thought he spoke very well. It seems he didn't mention the potential issues. Please elaborate on any concerns. Gao Lishir continued. First, he may be exaggerating. Other regions cannot match the prosperity of the 2 capitals. If the wealthy population is dispersed, building the electrical infrastructure will significantly increase costs, reducing profits. Therefore, I suspect an increase of 10 to 15 times is the limit. Exactly, very good. Please continue. Second, the technology for power plants has already been given to the top 10 wealthy merchants, which means a few powerful clans currently hold it. Promoting it nationwide would be akin to taking profits from them, making implementation extremely difficult. Just as Li Longji was about to speak, Gao Lishir added, thirdly, I can't quite explain it, but perhaps those wealthy clans do not truly grasp the technology of electricity. This unknown. Gao Lishir paused. But Li Longji understood the implication. Only Zhang Xiaochuan could manage this technology, and pushing for nationwide implementation might lead to a loss of control. It would be better to proceed gradually. Given Li Longji's suspicious nature, he found the idea of losing control unacceptable, though he hadn't reacted immediately. He quickly grasped this point from Gao Lishir and would not allow such a situation to occur. However, he was conflicted, no matter what. The imperial authority must not be shaken, as that is fundamental. If I do not implement these measures, then such a vast amount of wealth will be lost. Although I am the sovereign, I cannot do without this material wealth. Rewards for merit, relief for the people, and the expenses of the inner court all rely on it. Li Longji seemed to express regret, but in fact, he was asking Gao Lisher if there was any way to solve this. Gao Lisher, being his longtime partner, immediately showed the understanding expected of him. This old servant is foolish and does not know how to resolve it. But I think that capable individuals are like oxen in the fields. If you want them to plow but fear they will run off and plow crookedly, you should tie them with a rope. Li Longji, quick-witted, had an idea with just this slight hint from Gao Lisher. He then instructed, "Send someone to call Ling Chang to pay her respects. I have been thinking of her." "Yes, Your Majesty." "What should be done with the books on new learning presented by the Marquis of Shuzhou?" Li Longji thought for a moment and replied, "You arrange for some trustworthy and knowledgeable